the Fishing Gurus podcast.
So Pete, I know, because Bobby Taylor's told me, you've been doing some quite interesting fishing over the old lockdown period, haven't you?
Yeah, just taking it back to the roots a bit, Matt. We've been going down the River Wandle, local to us, just literally taking a rod, landing it between us, some maggots, and just literally walking along the river, finding little spots, trying to see what we can catch. I knew some bits of it before. I used to go there after work, catch some like little trout, some roach, odd dace. But we're just going to do new different stretches, trying to see what we can find.
A wander down the Wandle.
Exactly.
Good name
that.
for a river, that Tove, innit? The Wandle.
It's an old chalk stream.
Right. So it don't flood or anything then?
When it gets a load of water in it, the colour it colours up. It runs off quite quick.
Right.
So it never really holds water. It's not very deep. A lot of it's like inches deep. There's an odd bit that's like 2-3 foot. He's just trying to find different spots.
But he tells me, Bob, he says it's like full of weird stuff, like you'll be walking along and there'll be a ghost carp and a 20-pound mirror sat under a tree.
It is literally, you've got bits like through Mitcham and that, in like there's like all council areas, like flats. People must just chuck their fish in. Those like golden orf, goldfish.
Wow.
Just total random fish. Some of the carp and that we've been going, like literally beforehand we were going along with a stick float, just catching whatever we possibly can on maggots. Then we've mixed it up a bit, gone to a few different areas where people say you catch some barbel and that. We've had a couple of barbel out.
Tell us about barbel. I haven't seen any pictures of these yet.
We caught...
Are you keeping them quiet?
No, I put my one on.
Oh,
I put my
right.
one on social media. The first one we did, we found literally, we walked along, it was just after the flood, and there was a couple of carp anglers there. We just had a chat with them, and there was one bloke, he was literally stood in the middle of trees, would never even consider fishing there. And we just got speaking to him, like asked him what he was fishing for. He was like, oh, carp. I was like, really? Next thing you know, that evening on the Wandle page, we see he's caught common £25.
Amazing.
I was like to Robbie, I said, we've got to get back there and try and catch one of these carp. So it was literally, I think we went the next day, like excited kids as you do. We've gone down by this tree. There they were, odd carp swimming around. Like, I thought, Jesus, got to have a go at these. Stood up on the log, see a great big barbel there. At the time, all I had was like a little extendable rod, like a cheap thing off of eBay, like just purely for the fact we go around with our better rods and try and catch what we can. I thought, just if I see one, I can just wind that out and plop it in. So we fed a few little chunks of meat there, had a wander down the river, come back, literally all of it gone. So I said to Robbie, right, got to have a drop in here. Dropped it in on this little pen rod type thing. And I'm not joking, dropped it on the end of my rod. And I thought, oh, strange, like not dropped in there before, so not really knowing. It's quite fast flowing because it is just shallow. I'm like that, trying to put the bail arm over. I think, I've caught like onto a stick or something like that, and it's caught in the flow. Well, I've eventually got the bail arm over, and the barbel was on basically.
Never.
Don't get me wrong. After pulling it, like it snagged me through anything. We see it flash on the water, and then it just broke us in the end.
Oh no.
So obviously, I think we left it a day or two. Bit of family time, keeping the good books.
Yeah.
So we went there a bit more geared up, thinking, right, this is what we're going to go and do. Let's give it a proper go. So I had like proper rod, proper line, like nice big hooks and a big chunk of meat. Literally, I got to the river about 10 minutes earlier than Robbie. So I've gone down there, I've chucked in a couple of bits. I've seen one flash instantly. I'm talking like bottom of your rod tip.
And how deep is it where you're catching these or seeing them?
18 inches, 2 foot,
Never.
max, gin clear. But there's like a log that sits in the water. And then there's like a big raft of shit basically that's just holding fish there.
Yeah.
And I see one flash instantly. I was like, Robbie, where are you? I said, hurry up. I said, get down here. I said, I've seen one flash. He was like, yeah. I'll be there in a minute. Well, I'm not joking. I literally put some bait on. The moment I see him walk up, he said, shall I set a landing net up? I said, well, it might be worth it. I said, right, I'm going to drop in. I reckon within 4 seconds, before Robbie's even put the landing net to the handle, my rods, I'm on. I had one on. absolute heart pumping. You've got nowhere to pick the rod up. Like, the trees are really low. It's not a swim. It's like somewhere where people have just dropped in, sort of thing. Eventually slipped a net under him. He was around 8 or 9 pound. We didn't have a set of scales with us.
Good fish though, that, innit?
A beautiful fish. Absolutely immaculate. So we obviously, that was the first one on the score sheet. We had a little wander up further up to a place called Poulter's Park, where we know that a few others, like a few of our mates, Adrian Marshall and Terry Malloy, had been catching an oddun as well. So we went back, I think it was about 3 or 4 days later after that. So Robbie, as he calls it, the honey hole, it was his first dibs to have a go on this one. So we've walked up to the river. Funny enough, I see a bloke that I used to work with just having a chat. He was feeding some boilies in a swim looking for these carp. So I was having a chat with him, and Robbie was like, I'm going to go down into the swim and have a go. He must have sat down there fiddling about, put a bit of meat on. It must have been about 2 minutes. He was like, shouting down to us, I've got one sort of thing. Ran down into this like little, almost like a little wood cave. Run down there. He's playing this fish. I was like, Robbie, that is big. I was like, considering a little tiny river, I said, that is big. I said, that's £10 plus. He was like, no. I said, it was pulling like you would not believe. Like, comes up to the surface, flashes, bolts off again. Eventually, he's got it in, just holding its own in the flow. Eventually managed to slip a net under it. We actually had scales that time, so Robbie's weighed 11.4.
So how big were yours, do you reckon, having seen that one?
It was originally we thought it was between 7 or 8, but after getting a set of scales and weighing other fish, I think they were probably a bit heavier, like I say, probably 8 or 9 pound.
Yeah.
Plump fish. Because even when I slipped the net under Robbie's one, I was like, that's £10. He was like, no, nowhere near. He's like, that's 8 or 9 pound. I said, I'm telling you, that's £10 plus.
11.6.
11.4. 11.4. Yeah.
Wow.
Robbie might try and add a couple of ounces on
it. What a fish. Nice bit of lockdown fishing.
Oh, the fish in there, like the barbel, they seem to be, you either see them caught that they're like 6-7 pounders, or they're like 11 to 14 pound.
Like 2 different year classes of fish.
Oh, and this is a river that's had some serious problems in the past, and it's been polluted 3 or 4 times. Like, the fish will turn belly up, and it just seems to keep coming back.
Must be something healthy in it.
Be for the trout to live in it, it's got to be. And there's a stretch down at Hackbridge. It's absolutely rammed with them. You catch them from, there's a weir where you start. You just chuck maggots in, you see fish coming up, and like all sorts. Like, we've had some big days, probably close to knocking a pound.
That's close to the record.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think record dace is only £1.4 or £1.6 or something.
These days are absolutely huge.
Wow.
And they're pristine. Same as the roach in there. When you catch a roach, it's like, we've all caught roach on the river and that, and these are all plump roach. Like, they're 8 ounces up to like a pound. You catch them like regular.
Yeah.
There was a report that a bloke caught a rudd at Hackbridge. It was about 3 weeks ago now, £2.4.
So there's something in that river and that water, isn't there, then, that obviously breeds healthy big fish?
Oh, without a doubt. It's obviously got a lot of natural food, I'm guessing. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, obviously lockdowns created a lot more anglers that go on there. It's good to see. You get such a vast array of people there. You've got your hardcore barbel anglers that know what they're doing, rolling meat down the stream. And then you get just kids. You get kids that go there with a rod between them. They chuck methods or PVA bag, straight lead. They don't really care, I don't think, half the time. A lot of them go there with their mates, have a smoke, and that's that.
Catch a few fish as well.
Exactly that. Don't get me wrong. Of late, we've been trying to chase the carp.
And how's it going?
Unsuccessful at the moment.
Well, as we're filming and recording now, you've only got, 4 or 5 days of the river season left.
Literally, we were having one more attempt on Saturday morning. We've definitely missed one bite of one because we see it sucking a bit of bread. And
big one.
No, probably one of the smallest ones in there. You've got, like I say, you've got fish. I think that 25 pounder is the recorded biggest one that someone's caught. But there's millions. I say millions. No, that's an exaggeration. There's ones that get caught in different stretches. there's probably, I don't know, if you had to guess, in certain stretches up to 80 or 90 of these carp.
Right.
Some of them, they're all beautiful looking fish. You get kois, orange ones.
Wow.
And they swim around in little groups together. But I get the impression they've been fished for so many times now. But it's...
Maybe you need to have a little go for them at night or like in the dark or something.
Yeah, I must admit, we've tried a bit of everything, to be fair. Generally, a lot of the time, we try and get there early because if you're going on a weekend, exactly that. It's only such a small stretch where these fish are. You might get 8-10 anglers. That's the problem with going during the day or of an evening. You don't know who's dropped in your swim. And sometimes we're walking 5 or 6 miles along the river, just up and down, just having a little drop in here and there, trying to spot fish.
You can't get better than that lockdown exercise and fishing in one go, innit?
It's lovely, to be fair. It's been really nice, even going through like the snow when it was snowing and everything.
Did you fish while it was snowing?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Catch any?
Yeah, loads of trout and roach and odd chub. It's just been really good to get out. I haven't fished a river for 20 years.
So you've enjoyed it?
Oh, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And
nice.
We're all big kids at heart, and I go home like dreaming of these fish in the Wandle. my missus thinks I'm absolutely crackers. On her birthday, I took her down there for a walk, just so I could feed some swims for the next day.
Well, I've got a secret for you here. Yesterday, or the back end of last week, it was my missus's 30th. So, like, I booked a few days off. I booked the Friday off and the Monday, Tuesday. So, Friday we went for a nice walk and had a bit of a meal in the evening and stuff. Spent day with her Monday, and I was like, Tuesday, I've got a little adventure for you. She went, that means we're going fishing, doesn't it? Well, like, yeah.
She knows straight away.
Southwesterly winds. It's going to go mild, so we're definitely going barbelling on Trent. So, yesterday, I took her on the river barbel fishing, and she caught 2 doubles.
Oh, lovely.
She doesn't care, though. She doesn't give a monkey.
Does she not?
No, she caught a 10-pounder and an 11-pounder yesterday, and I'm like, Meg, they are like fish of a lifetime for some people. And she's like, have we got any more food in the bag?
Mate, if I got a £10 barbel, I'd lose it.
I know.
Yeah, I'd be buzzing.
She doesn't, honestly, she's got no...
Exactly the same as that, Tobes.
Yeah.
My target on this little river, I'd ideally now, I want to catch one of these pretty looking carp. They've all got names. They've been caught so many times and that. Or a £10 barbel. Exactly that.
You'll get one, mate.
Hopefully.
This weekend's the time.
I must admit,
It's been said now.
Yes.
I'm confident.
Good. Well, you've already spoke about what I want to mention early on. But before I do, welcome to the Fishing Gurus podcast, mate.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Pete Upperton. Or better known as, you'll like this one, Toby.
Go on.
And I don't know the reason for it yet. There's 2 options. Pete the Meat.
All right. Right, what's the story behind that?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not for the reason I'd like it to be. I've got the name from fishing luncheon meat.
Right.
On commercial fisheries, basically. And just had a fair bit of success over the years. And the name sort of caught on. Originally, funny enough, it's almost been carried on because originally people used to call my old man Barry the Meat.
Never!
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not so much now, bless him. He doesn't catch as much anymore.
Right, wow. So, obviously, there's some serious stories behind fishing meat for you. Why does that, as a bait, play such a big part in your fishing, Pete?
To be fair, the versatility of it, it's like anything. It's having confidence in it. Growing up, my old man obviously taught me most of the things about fishing, and he was obsessed. Like obviously, as a kid, all you want to do is fish maggots, see the float go under and catch some fish. He's like, no, try a little bit of meat, try a bit of meat, and then obviously in time it started working. You have that confidence, and I don't know what it is. I think fishing meat or learning one bait, it gives you the ability to change that onto other baits. Because don't get me wrong, I fish like expanders, very similar to how I'd fish meat. Corn, they're almost similar, like the feeding patterns and how you're mixing it up and to work out ways of catching fish, I guess.
Yeah, well, I remember back in my magazine days, one day, I don't know if it was John Arthur or Joe Carras or someone from Match Fishing magazine had been out with you the day before, and they came back in the office, and it might have been Alex Bones even, it were one of them, and they came back and they were like, went out with Pete the Meat yesterday, that method he has got is awesome. And I specifically remember him saying, like, I always thought he just used to feed a load of bait and fish dead heavy and catch big weights of fish, but he's so cute and clever and got it so refined. So I'm assuming that they are talking about the famous Meat Mush that you developed and came up with. Tell us a little bit about the Meat Mush and your way of fishing meat.
To be fair, like obviously I've started originally. We used to get the old like a boiler flue cover, and we used to get a tin of meat, push it over it, and then chop it round and push it back over it. So you used to fish great big chunks of meat, feeding 3 or 4 of them and just sitting out for a great big one, all roughed up and things like that. Then obviously you start getting meat cutters and things like that. When I first started fishing meat, we'd cut it up with a knife on a
I
Saturday.
can remember you do it night before in your kitchen.
Yeah, you had your favourite knife, didn't you?
Yeah, 1 foot sandwich with a bit of brown sauce on a slice.
Oh no, I couldn't eat it. But then, like you say, you ended up with all different shapes and sizes. But then you had meat gutters come about, and like you say, everyone pursues that you're feeding loads of bait, and that is the way that it's got to be done. So then, what you had is a lot of places almost started banning meat or restricting meat, what the limits were and that. And that's where the Meat Mush come around. Like some of the venues we were fishing, like Hartleylands in Kent, they put it down to a 2 tin limit. So you're sitting there thinking meat is what they want to eat. And it was what they wanted to eat. You'd catch, don't get me wrong, certain times of the day you'd catch them on a method to the island, or you might catch them short on corn. But in the edges and things like that, that is what they wanted to eat. And it was either a case of trying to save your bait as long as you possibly can to try and catch them when they wanted to eat. So you didn't want to waste any of your bait. It was where instead of using great big like 8mm cutters, 6mm, sometimes I've started using 4mm cutters. It's that way, instead of feeding like the equivalent of 6 bits of meat, you're getting 10 bits of meat or 12 bits of meat out of a smaller cutter. And then one day I thought, I'm going to push it through a riddle. And it was like I was using less bait than I've ever used. Not that we used to use loads anyway, maybe up to 6 tins or something like that. But you were using less bait than you've ever used, and they were easier to catch. They were giving themselves up for free. And it was like, before you're thinking, oh, feeding a bit of mush, or it's almost like a lot of nothing. You're thinking, oh, you might get bitted out by roach and things like that. I don't know what it is in there. I think what it is, because there's so many particles, the fish seem to go mad for it. They be rooting around, always constantly looking, and then when that little blob of meat comes back in over their head, they were just so easy to catch on it. And then eventually I worked it out that after a while they got a bit clued up to it, a bit like ground bait in the edges and things like that. They'd seen it and they were harder to catch, but by mixing in a few cubes, like a few 6mm, a few 8mm and some mush, it was just easy again. Purely for the fact they didn't know which one was your hook bait, I'm guessing.
Nice.
And some of it was giving you, like, if you put 2 tins of meat through a meat cut, you get, 2.5 pints of meat. Where the time you prepared your meat mush with two tins, say a tin through normal cutters and a tin through a musher, time you bulk it out with some water, you've got 3.5 pints of bait sort of thing. You can just kinder your way through it.
So tell me a little bit. Can you? Obviously, I'm digging into your secrets here, mate. But can you tell me how, if I'm going to go meat mush fishing this weekend, which I might do after it sounds so damn good? How do I prepare it? How do you go about doing it? Can you give that away?
Yeah. To be fair, Matt, anyone that knows me, I don't care. At the end of the day, if you're following someone, then chances are you're probably a step or two behind them. And don't get me wrong, I've always told people and will happily tell people and show people. I've lent people my cutters, my mincer and everything.
Brilliant.
A general rule of thumb is, for say for instance fishing in the edge like 2-3 foot deep, I'd always look to do a 3-part ratio. I normally do a tin of 6s now, a tin of 8s, and a tin of mush.
You're talking about 6mm cubes of meat,
yeah,
8mm cubes of meat and mush.
Exactly that.
Right.
And literally just mix the whole lot together and then just slowly start adding water until it becomes, I know it sounds disgusting, almost like a sick consistency.
That's quite a good way to remember it.
Yeah. What did you cash on today, lads? Bit of sick, mate.
Yeah, just without any carrots in there. But it is. It's quite disgusting, really. You end up getting it all over your hands, all over your jacket, all over your face, and but you. That would be my general rule of thumb. The moment you put too much water in it, it almost loses that binding power of it, and it will just hit the water, and then you'll get particles that float off and things like that. And then alternative, if you don't put enough water in, it's almost like a glue, and it just sink to the bottom before it starts breaking down. Where I think you want it hitting the water and almost exploding or just crumbling apart as it's coming down, so fish can smell it, see it.
Yeah. It must be so much scent and fats and oils and attraction come off.
Without a doubt. Like I say, I've had it before, like where they go into like a frenzy in it, and it's brilliant. It's just obviously more and more venues, and I'm not blaming them for it, because it's the end of the day, it's their venues and their fish welfare. There's obviously research that's going into that meat can potentially, or too much meat can potentially hurt the fish in the long run, I guess.
I think it damages water quality is the main concern, isn't it?
Exactly that. And to be honest, I think a lot of the time, Matt, is going back to that, where people think that you're feeding loads, so they feed loads. And it's a lot catch-22. There's some people that are going there saying, well, he's feeding 10 tins, so I'm going to go and feed 10 tins. They catch nothing, and them 10 tins are sat in there. Where I'm sure you're probably the same, Matt. Most of your best days that you have at fishing, you fed next to nothing.
Because you've caught one most chucks in,
Exactly that. And a lot of the time, when you're catching your best days, the fish are there. You don't need to draw or feed loads of bait to get them in.
Well, you've mentioned already that you hinted at, I've tried it with other baits, corn, expanders. Tell me a little bit about that. Has that been because when I first heard about Meat Mush, I'm talking 8 years ago, when maybe you started doing it, or you were doing it and started to reveal it.
Yeah, to be fair, probably a bit longer than that.
There you go.
It's like anything like that people start using and that. You tell one person, he's like, oh, don't tell anyone. And then all of a sudden somebody else comes up to you and says, this Meat Mush, what do I do there? And you're like, well, I know where that's come from.
So you've adapted it and changed it and tried doing similar things with other baits?
I tried it all, like literally always trying to think of different things to do. Like at the end of the day, if someone says, oh, that's how you've got to feed it, what's the point of 20 or 30 of you all round a lake all doing the same thing? I'm a great believer in feeling my way in onto a match. You'll never see me, like, I've seen people like start a match and they feed a pot of ground bait in the edge and big pot of pellets short and fire some bait out and along. I will start my match everywhere I go, regardless of the time of year. I'll fish through a kinder pot, no matter what line I want to start on, and just try and feel your way in. But like you say, mixing things up where meat isn't as good as it used to be. Had a little bit success. Nearly got it out.
Been eating meat, it sounds right, yeah.
Had a bit of success, like blending up some corn. So similar sort of thing, same sort of ratio as putting a tin or two through a blender and doing like a 50-50 gauge with like normal grains and trying to feed it and fish it exactly the same way that I have meat.
What when you say fish it and feed it in the same way, what other edges are there within this method that you've perfected?
The thing is, I think, like you say, it gives you an opportunity, like a second opportunity. I catch like a lot of fish in the edge, and I'd always try and feel my way in, rather than some people look at their watch, they think, oh right, we're 3 hours in, right, let's feed 5 pots of ground bait now.
Yeah.
Where I'll quite happily have a look in the edge, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, hour. It depending what type of day I feel like it is, but it gives you the opportunity to have a go at some of them fish that might be living there that don't necessarily want to eat. They know when loads of bait goes in, that it's danger, where you can just go fish along, fish to a snag where you think, oh, well, I might be living there, plop in like a little tiny ball of mush, and you might be able to nick 1 or 2 fish that you might not have caught.
That's the power of that bait. It's that smelly and attractive to them. Even when they don't really want to eat, they will come in and have a look.
Without a doubt. And I think because of the mush and that, I don't think they're really expecting it. I think if you potted in 20 bits of meat and sat there, you might not have even had a bite.
Amazing.
Because there's 3 or 4 bits of meat, there's a bit of mush, they just think, oh, well, they will have a go at that.
What's your opinion on like fishing light and heavy? Because you seem to me like you've got lots of intricate little things going on. You fish accurately. You start carefully with a kinder pot, you've said. You obviously think about measuring these ratios, a third 6mm, a third 8mm, a third mush. I'd like to know, what's your thoughts on like fishing light or heavy, Pete? Because you catch some massive weights of fish.
Yeah.
You're not going to tell everyone because I know what you like, but this man, folks, catches a lot of fish. And I want to know, do you need to fish heavy, light?
To be fair, I'm a great believer. Don't get me wrong, I've tried it all. I've tried fishing heavy, tried fishing light. I think you've got to try and find a balance to what fish you feel like that you're going to catch and what sort of weight you're going to catch. Beggars to belief, I don't fish as heavy as people think. I think it's just about balancing your gear up. Like, for some reason, I think people get in their head, especially with fishing in the edge, they think, oh, I've got to fish heavy because I'm fishing in the edge. Where early on in the match, where they're not necessarily wanting to eat so much and every fish counts, I would quite happily fish a lighter rig. My fishing in the edge, I'd always dot my floats down. I'd never ever have a bristle showing. At the end of the day, some bites, yeah, it's fantastic when that float, the whole bristle goes under. And there is times that I will take shot off that it is better, but I think I would always start as light as I feel that I can get away with fishing.
And do you think it does make a difference?
Oh, without a doubt. The thing is, Matt, I would rather, what you've got to ask yourself is, if you get broke, so the way I always look at it, okay, yeah, you might get broke, but how many more fish have you gained by fishing that lighter? Because you could go there and fish 0.22 on every rig, and when they want to eat, you will catch some. But there might have been some fish there to be caught earlier, not necessarily great big ones, but a few F1s or anything that's mooching around that you can catch beforehand to try and boost your weight up, basically.
Yeah.
So I would rather have a crack at them, maybe catch 3 or 4. Then if I get broke, make that decision to think, right, well, maybe I should step it up, or I'll proceed to carry on and see what happens. Like I say, I think fishing heavy, the fish are so big in these commercials now that I don't think you always need to fish heavy for them. Just balance gear and you can play them out. A lot of the time, most of the bigger fish don't even fight.
No, they're waddlers, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're just like...
When you don't get me wrong, you're catching 5-6 pounders and some of them like pull like crazy. How many times have you caught one and you like hook it on a top kit or whatever? You hook it on a top kit, you lift up and you're like, Jesus, look at the size of that. and it doesn't even really know it's hooked, or it's just gorging on your food.
Yeah, definitely the case. Obviously, speaking to you, I can tell you take your fishing seriously. You care a lot about it, and you quite you think about it a lot. There's a lot to your fishing, and where's that come from? Have you always been a serious angler from a match fishing competitive background?
Don't get me wrong, match fishing, like anyone that goes match fishing, it gets you. It does get you, because all you want to do is, if you've caught a load, you want to go back out and catch some more. If you haven't caught a load, you think, oh my God, I've not caught, I need to get back out again. And you're just desperate to want to go fishing. And I've been quite lucky that my old man, he's match fisherman, like from his like early 20s.
Barry the meat.
Yeah. So he's been fishing from the early 20s. So I've been lucky to have that upbringing. Don't get me wrong, I never, when my old man used to say, oh, like, I've got a brother as well, an older brother, he used to say, oh, shall I take you fishing? Like, no, not interested about it, sort of thing. And then randomly one day, bloke from school, he was like, it was a chap, Nick Allybone. So he just said to us, Joe, do you want to go fishing like the weekend? I thought, yeah, do you know what? I'll have a go at that. Like, pounced a bit of gear off my old man. And we just went down to Berry Hill. And I remember catching like a perch. This place was absolutely rammed full of carp, like you wouldn't believe. And I caught a perch. I think that's all I caught that day. But I thought, God, do you know what? I quite enjoyed that. And my old man, obviously, he knew that. And I used to dip into his rig box and things like that. I didn't have a clue how to tie a hook. To tell a lie, I say I didn't have a clue how to tie a hook. I knew how to tie a hook and had no interest in fishing. My old man taught us that. But I was lucky that I had that opportunity to be able to take it further forward, or have someone that knew about fishing. At the end of the day,
speaking about your dad.
Yeah. Because, like I say, obviously, kids going fishing. They do what they feels right, but without any guidance, it's not a lot you can do, really, is there?
No, definitely not. So was your dad a match angler? Did he get you straight into competitive fishing? Straight
into matches, literally. At the moment I've shown an interest that I wanted to go. He's probably loved it at the end of the day. It's a little mate for him to go fishing with.
Yeah.
And he used to take us to a place that just borderline started opening, which was Stub Pond, down in East Grinstead, and they were all like little pasty carp from they're probably 8 ounces when they were in there.
I miss that kind of fishing. There's not as much of that now, is there?
Do you know what? All commercial venues, they're not the same as what they used to be.
No.
They seem, I don't know if it's, well, obviously it is, the tackle's got better, knowledge has got better, bait's better, everything's better basically. So I'm not sure even if them fisheries they were probably that good back then, but you don't see it like that. Like, I'm not being funny. £100 was like, whoa.
Can you remember your first £100 weight, Pete?
I think it would have been at Stub Pond, because the fish, they were like these crazy little mirror carp. They were like peas in a pod, and when they were stocked, they were like 8 ounces. A year later, they're like £3.5. And then we're fishing there 3 years.
Probably because you and your dad have been feeding them luncheon meat.
Exactly that. They were like little eating machines. And they were just growing so quick. And then obviously the weight started getting bigger. And before we even knew it, when we were going to Stub Pond, we used to see these odd big fish cruising. And at the time, I'm talking probably 20 odd years ago now, we used to call it a flick rig. So we used to have a big long line of length of line, like a top getter line, a big float, and we used to swing at the fish. Obviously now mugging everyone. It's just like we didn't even know we were doing that style of fishing at the time.
But that was the very first stages of mugging.
Oh, without doubt, yeah. Like I say, we used to call it flick rig.
Amazing. So straight into match fishing, thanks to Dad, Barry. Where did it go from there? When did it get even more serious?
We got involved with a junior group as well. That was the Keenets League at the time. Started off fishing with Woking because his mate Mick Rollins, and so his 2 boys Mark and Ian used to fish with them. So he used to knock around with them a bit and what's not. So we ended up fishing for them. Then I joined Dorking Juniors, so it would have been like Zach Brown. It was Anthony Hamilton, so Gary Hamilton's nephew at the time.
I know Gary, Dorking angler, isn't he?
Exactly that. So it was Lee Taylor, Alex Lister.
Don't know these.
Do you know Alex?
Stuart's lad.
Stuart's lad, yeah.
Yes, he goes carp fishing now, or he's got a carp fishing bait company. Yeah.
So he was one of the juniors with us. Amazing.
But
yeah, so we obviously got involved at that, but at the same time coinciding with the juniors, we were doing open matches, getting to different venues. Don't get me wrong, sometimes we also had the CIU Working Men's Club, and my old man run a club, Sunmead. So we were going on different days out and different things with that. God knows how much it used to cost him wasting his money on the pools.
What's from an early age then, you've fished against blokes, fished against adults, open matches. Do you think that's been a big influence on your fishing?
Without a doubt. At the end of the day, it's like anything. Like you learn from other people. Like my old man's mates, if my old man couldn't take me, I was desperate to go. Like during the school holidays, my mum used to take me up to Berry Hill. I used to go there every day of the week, or down the River Mole. Used to go with my mate James Roberts, he doesn't fish anymore, moved away. But we used to literally desperate to go fishing, and you're always learning. And when you've got older people and things like that, I think it's just a quicker process.
What were your first taste of success in match fishing? When did you first start to win and realise, like, hang on a minute, I like this winning?
Yeah, but do you know what? It was, again, with my old man's club, Sunmead, we used to go around. There was 10, 15 of them. And I remember one day I wasn't allowed to go on the match. It's like, hold up. Well, what's up there then? So I wasn't allowed to go on the match. And what it was my old man's mates bitching and moaning because they potentially didn't want to lose their money.
And how old were you at this point?
I would have been about 15, I
That's
guess.
terrible.
But yeah, so almost banned from their things. But it makes you stronger because then my old man almost drifted away from them. Their club or almost disbanded. And we were fishing more and more opens and running odd bits. We used to go to like Willingshurst, Berry Hill on Bonds Lake, which is the carp lake there, and Stub Pond. They were like our main 3 places that we used to go. We used to run a little league across Willingshurst and Stub Pond. And just, yeah, it's fishing against some brilliant anglers, to be fair.
Who was about back then? Who can you remember?
Stevie G.
Steve Gardner.
One of the nicest men in fishing.
He'll have been, if it full swing England team, England international, fishing every world championships at that stage.
Without doubt, yeah. Steve was fishing with us, and he'll tell you he helped us all along the way. Same as like Robbie, he was
Robbie Taylor.
Exactly that. We were knocking about with them all the time. Then other big influences, I guess, with Perry Stone. I've known for ever, sort of thing.
He can catch 'em, Perry, can't he? Yeah.
But it's like Adrian Marshall.
No AD.
Terry Harrison, Jeff Vallance.
I can remember Terry Harrison basically invented the puller kit, didn't
That's
he?
it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But at the time, I remember when he was actually using that, it was on a Bic. He had a Bic pen, and I think it was like like a silicone gun nozzle.
Yeah.
So what they had, they basically adapted a silicone gun nozzle and then a Bic pen, and that's what they were using as their puller bung.
Wow.
And,
That's mental.
It's crazy. I'm pretty sure before they didn't even put the elastic through it all. What they were doing was they were just pulling the whole bung out and just pulling the elastic like that with their hands. Well, obviously the next adaptation was when the elastic used to run through the middle, wasn't it?
Well, I've got a story for you as well. This was 2005. So a long time ago. I can remember Steve Saunders, Dorking captain.
Yeah.
He captained the England under-16s team, and we had a little day at the Glebe fishery, and he caught a load of fish on Caster's Sheller. And when you're packing up, you're having a natter, aren't you?
Yeah.
And I went up and I says, come on, let's have a look what you caught, blah-de-blah, cheeky little ginger kid. And he went, here, have a look at this, Matt. And he pulled this thing out the bottom of his pole, and he went, this is something that you might see a bit more of in the future. And I'm sure he told me that Terry had invented it, because Terry's lad Marcus fished with the juniors at the time, and it was a Preston bung that had been cut out with the number 1 section of a pole glued in. So it were a similar sort of adaptation.
Just a new, probably the next stage.
Next prototype, probably. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy how different things come up. It's the simplest things. Like before, I remember playing fish on like a top 5, top 6 even, and more, and you're playing carp for like an hour.
Makes you wonder how you ever did it, doesn't it?
And I even remember someone saying, "Oh, you want to try that?" And I thought, I don't want to try that. I'm not. And do you know what? Puller bungs come out, even the ones like the when they first come out from Preston, I think it was, wasn't it? So they've come out. I don't think I used one for about a year. I'm like, nah, I'm not using that. I'd rather use a slightly heavier elastic and still use it. And then once you've used one, it's like, oh my God, what was I doing?
Obviously we're reminiscing on commercial fishing and how it was back then. Is there anything else that sticks out in your mind, Pete, as to how it was different then compared to now?
Especially round our way, Matt, maybe not so much yours. Like the matches have dwindled massively in the south. I say the numbers have dwindled. There's still lots of people fishing, but what you find is you'll get a group of 10 blokes that fish against the same blokes all the time. They don't want to mix, where like the old Surrey Winter Leagues and everything, they were like 120 peg matches, where towards the end, like a 60 peg Winter League was massive round our way. And even the opens, like a lot of the opens round our way now are 25 pegs, Where before we were getting some brilliant matches like the Nick Puncher at Hartley Lands. They used to book out the whole fishery.
Just for an open match.
Just for an open match. They used to book out the whole fishery. So you're getting 100 people on that match.
And I'm assuming prize money were good then because there's so many entering.
Yeah. It's like you say. One thing I've always think. Obviously, you've got the big matches and that now, but match fishing's never really, like, the inflation side of it for pools and that has never really increased.
And what would you be happy to say pay for a match nowadays to enter?
Obviously, the big matches and that you're paying, well, 50 quid, isn't it, and £20 pools a lot of the time. I must admit, I'd like to see all matches around 30, 35 quid. £30 standard, £5 super pool, say, for instance, where there's still a lot of matches that are 20 and you might get a £5 super pool.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, every match that I go on, or league matches, I generally run one myself.
What, so you get even more money for the winner?
Yeah,
or?
Don't get me wrong, we try and mix it up a bit, like to keep everyone happy, because obviously we fish like a lot of leagues at Monks and things like that, because Monks, generally, you'll only get 20 people on an open.
Talking about Monk Lakes in Kent,
exactly,
aren't we?
that.
Yeah.
So at least if you get a league match, they'll have 3 lakes, you might get a 60 pegger. So what we do, I normally like to have a £5 super pool and maybe a £2 winner take all. So that way you can pay out the winner of each lake, and the winner overall gets obviously an added bonus. But just trying to spread it out a bit and give the winner a bit more. Because I remember matches when I was like 16, 17, like a Surrey Winter League, you'd win 400 quid for winning the match. Where now, even on a 20 peg match, you'll find they pay top 4, 2 sections. And I just feel like it's been watered down a little bit too much. I'm not saying that it's wrong, because that's the way what people want, but it'd be nice for certain matches. At the end of the day, it's an achievement to win a match.
Yeah.
Why not be rewarded for it?
Exactly. I can honestly say, when I'm thinking about it, what you've just said about inflation, the time I've been fishing tackle prices have increased quite a lot. Fishing bait, everything from... I can remember when ground bait was £2.49 a bag.
Yeah.
Just a bag of Van der Nine plain ground bait. And now it's, for what, £3.50? £4 quid a bag, most ground baits. And even things like maggots, price has gone up. Cost of your fuel to get to matches has gone up. Everything has gone up, but the pools now, for a general open match, are pretty much the same as when I started fishing.
There's still matches round our way that are like 20 and with a £5 super pool. And even when I first started fishing, they're exactly the same pools.
I almost feel like some people want to go for a day out, give someone some money at the start and just get a little bit back. So it's a freebie of a day.
And I think that is, especially down the south, that's what happens everywhere. There's loads of little groups of people that go to different venues, but they're mixing against the same people all the time. And you'll find that they steer clear from certain anglers or certain venues because they think, oh no, he's going to be there, so we're not going to win. And as much as we all like to win, it's I don't know. Maybe it's an older generation that they get to a point where they're not that bothered. Where I think when you're younger, you're a bit more cutthroat. You want to win. You want to beat them people. And sometimes you just don't get the opportunity to fish the right matches anymore.
No, I'd agree with you, mate. Definitely. Maybe we should start fighting for pools to be up massively.
Yeah, let's do it.
The Guru super big money matches. What we've talked about so far, it seems to me like all the stuff we're already mentioning, you are probably still at school at this point.
Yeah.
What were you like at school, Pete? I want to know what Pete Upperton were like at school.
To be fair, I've always loud. Always liked to chat. We used to have a thing like, it was like cautions, what we used to get. So you used to get 2 strikes, then that's it, you're out. So you used to end up talking, chattering away. Used to get a little tick on the boards, and then another tick, and then eventually you'd end up getting a caution. We think, well, might as well carry on now because you got allowed for another 2. I was easily distracted. Don't get me wrong, not the cleverest. not gonna claim I am, but school was all right. It was school at the end of the day, isn't it?
Preferred fishing.
Oh, without a doubt.
We had a
Nice.
caution thing similar at our school as well, and it was always we found when your mates were when your mate would get on there and then you'd see 1 tick and then 2. It was almost like a competition. See if you could get them that third one, so they'd have to leave.
Yeah, exactly that. Do you know what? It was stupid because I remember it. Then after a point on the back of your like little folder that you used to have, there was like a limit on things. So 5 cautions equaled like an hour detention, 10 was suspension, 15 was expulsion. There was people there like that had 4 pages of them, and it's just ridiculous. It meant nothing in the end, sort of thing.
Right.
No, they don't. I always used to think that because when you're at school, like if you got one, you think, oh, that's it. It's like the end of the world kind of thing. But then, yeah, as you get older, they don't really mean anything, do they?
No, I spent most of my time in detention for talking, and it's just is what it is. Isn't
I
it?
got moved up front. Very first day of high school, I got moved up front just for nothing bad, just for nattering.
Oh,
Like, sit up front. You
to
done?
be fair, my maths one, I had to take my maths class in the end outside the headmaster's office every day. It's like, oh, great.
Did they give you a desk as well?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, you didn't have to lean against the wall or anything?
No, it wasn't that bad.
No, I don't
God, I'm
know.
not that old, Tobes. Jesus.
It's I used to obviously I did a lot of. I was lucky where I went to school because we had a fishing club. A science teacher called Dr. Hobart used to run the fishing club.
See,
and we
I
used
think
to have
my
school
science teacher was
matches.
an alcoholic, I think. But
I don't know. So, young angling, you've been dropped in at the deep end, basically fished matches from the off, which is different because most people I've had on the podcast, or I'm probably going to have on, I bet I'll have the same old story of started on a canal, caught a perch, got competitive with my mates, joined a club, went club fishing, got good there, started doing... You've literally gone, right, I am going match fishing, competitive fishing.
yeah,
And-
the thing is, I suppose a lot of it, I had no other option.
No.
If I wanted to go fishing, I'd go with my old man.
In a competition.
Yeah, and if I wanted to fish, he'd have to put us in the match.
Well, what I want to ask you is, do you think that young anglers of today have that right mindset to do that?
It's a hard one. At the end of the day, I think all like young clubs and things like that are brilliant, but there's not enough of them about. And for them to improve quicker and not mollycoddled, but they need to step out, I think, and come out of their comfort zone. I think we're a nation of not stepping out of our comfort zone anymore.
And if you was to give a young angler, so I get asked a lot of questions on Facebook, Matt, I really want to get good at fishing fast, how do I do it? If someone asked you that question, a young angler, what would you say to them?
I don't think there's a quick fire like to get good fast. At the end of the day, you've got to make things right for yourself, and what's right for you might not be right for me. I do some weird things in my fishing, and some people would look at it and think, Jesus, what's like? But it catches fish, and you've got to adapt things that work for you. I don't think there's a quick fire way of getting good quick. Yeah, you can go as much as you can, and of course that will help, but you've got to be doing it half right. It's pointless going pleasure fishing every week and going, oh yeah, I've caught £300 and things like that. And then when you go and fish a match, because a match situation is always different. And when you've got, no offence to clubs and that, but when you've got like club fishing, it is at a level, and I don't know what it is on some of these fisheries. The fish almost feel like they have to feed at some point in that day, and they catch loads. I'm not saying that there's not good standard there, because some of them are. But when you go on a match where there's loads of good anglers, them fish feed even different again. And it's just trying to work out like a way that works for you to do that.
I suppose you can't learn how to catch fish in an intense, high-profile match unless you are fishing intense, high-profile matches.
A prime example that I've seen is like, I'll never forget, we used to have a match at Framfield, like Winter League at Framfield, and there was always these so-called venue experts that they were old boys on a Wednesday. They were catching £300-400 of fish at the time, and it was not a pressured match or situation. There wasn't loads and loads of good anglers to compete against, and then all of a sudden on a Winter League, you've got the who's who of the South like fishing the Winter Leagues, and these so-called venue experts always used to get drafted in on some of the teams because they were gagging to fish. And 9 times out of 10, they borderline come last because they're starting the match, they're heaving in, they're chucking in like a handful of ground bait here, some maggots down there, and fishing long on a pole with some corn. And they've killed their pegs before the start because it's not how they fish. And obviously, let's be fair, how many times have you drawn the same peg, Matt, that within 2 days or within a week of itself? It's never the same match.
No.
Or very rare it's the same match.
Interesting. You talk about, obviously, you've got to go a lot. You've got to be going fishing. You've got to be fishing matches. Have you ever spent any time, say, full-time fishing or committed to it in a super serious way?
Obviously, the passion for it was like intense. Like when I was growing up, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And I was in between jobs and working different bits. And you know what it's like. Sometimes you start working somewhere, you think, oh, I love it here, and then all of a sudden you think, oh my God, I hate him. I want to get out of here.
This podcast bloke, mate, will keep chipping in. It does me head in.
I've heard he's getting the sack anyway. So, but it is you like, and I found myself in between jobs, and I was fishing. I found myself fishing like we always used to do like a Monday evening at Pondwood Farm, like nice local one. Then a Tuesday I used to go to Shorefields on an evening match. Wednesdays you could find an open wherever.
So it was a day off Wednesday then to fish?
Day off I used to go to normally Gold, to be fair, Gold Valley. But then sometimes what Gold used to do, they'd have a day match and then they'd have an evening match straight after that day match. So sometimes like that Thursday was my day off. Friday I used to fish Shorefields again, back at it Saturday, Sunday. So I was fishing like 5-6 matches. I've probably done that for about a year. Don't get me wrong, I was never rich. I'd like to think I normally used to pick up in like probably 80% of their matches, and like to think that a lot of the time I could win probably 3 of their matches a week. But I loved it, but it was never going to make you rich or have money, or not for me personally.
What kind of lifestyle did you have when you were doing that?
Don't get me wrong, I've always had a brilliant balance with social life and fishing. I'm one of them people, Matt, that I can go out, get pissed up, and literally the next day you wouldn't even know I'd gone out. I'd get back at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 I'm up for fishing religiously. I'm never late. I'm not a late person.
That's a skill, that is. Really. I wouldn't be able to
need
do
a
that.
lesson in this.
And do you know what? I would literally, I would go out. I'd still go out on drinking. I used to go out every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We used to go into Croydon, the Blue Orchid, with the boys.
Right.
But yeah, we used to, every week we'd be out drinking. And
who's this, Pete? We've got a picture on the screen.
I've just got this image of Peter night before a match.
I think lots of alcohol was consumed before that photo was taken.
So for the listeners, he's got a Boss shirt on, some sort of glasses, and an umbrella hat.
I think it's actually a knob for a nose as well.
Yeah, I think it is actually. Did you ever do any team fishing, Pete?
When my old man's team, Sunme, disbanded, between us, we set up a team called Meat Bashers. So it was me and my old man, and originally we entered the Super Cup, the Angling Times Super Cup, and we were doing things. There was like the Super Sixes at Stub Pond at the time, like little team events, fishing with your mates, basically. And it was good. There was some good blokes and some good mates that I'm still friends with there now. But that was the first thing that we'd done team fishing, but it wasn't serious team fishing. At the end of the day, it was a jolly up with your mates. If don't get me wrong, the Super Sixes at Stub Pond, I think we won it every year.
Amazing. So you obviously knew what you were doing.
Oh yeah, like I say, we had a good bunch of people. I think at the time our team, I think it was like Adrian Marshall, it was Melvin Gray, which I don't think you would have heard of.
No, I know A.D. Marshall.
Melvin at the time, he actually J Range. You know J Range?
Yes.
He set up J Range.
Right.
So I actually used to work for him for a period of time as well.
Interesting.
Very quiet man, but he was fishing, and at Stub Pond he was the man to beat. So he was in our team, my old man, and I think it was John Webb, the other one. And Zach Brown was our Super 6 team, and we used to win that like every year. The Super Cup, we progressed on further. In the end, Richard Grange, he actually had so many complaints, like because there was in the team there was me, Perry, Zach,
Perry Stone.
yeah.
Right.
So obviously it was people that had been around, and it was probably a bit naughty on our front. And in the end, I remember Richard Grange ringing us up. He said, "Look, I'm going to have to kick you out." He said, "I've had so many complaints." I think the semi-final was at Gold Valley. Zach had won his lake, I'd won my lake. Perry broke the record at the time.
Quite a good match then.
Yeah. And it was like, he said, "I'm going to have to kick you out," or he said, "I'll do a lovely little press report," and he said that you're leaving, that you're going on to new things, and that you're not in that club scene sort of thing.
Yeah, to turn it into a positive.
Exactly that. Like I say, it was probably naughty that we were fishing it in the first place, but that's where it went from there.
And what happened after Meat Bashers then? So you basically got too good for club fishing, let's be honest.
To be fair, Meat Bashers started getting a bit more serious. They had more team members. They used to enter the Winter League. And along things, like team fishing, I always find it quite bitchy and backstabbing. And people want it all their own way and their perspective of what it should be or how it should be run or how people behave and things like that. So I left Meat Bashers at the time to join Delcac, purely for the fact a lot of it was my mates Robbie and Zach were there.
Robbie Taylor and Zach Brown, who you're still really good mates with now, I know that.
Yeah.
And how was Delcac? What happened at Delcac? Because they are a good team. I mean, it was when I used to fish the Winter Leagues up north, it were always Delcac, Dorking, etc. down south that I'd see winning all the time.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Delcac, I was with them for about... It was probably around 3 years in the end. Chucked in at the deep end. I was back on like the canals at West Hive and things like that, which I hadn't done since I was growing, like since I was probably 19 sort of thing. And if I'm totally honest, I had no real interest in fishing them, but I think, right, team fishing, okay, yeah, I'll do what I've got to do sort of thing. But then in Delcac, it's very bitchy, I felt.
What do you mean by that?
It was a bit of a clique sort of thing. You had people that had been there for years. Obviously, a bunch of young influx of anglers like Robbie and Zach and that. They were tearing it up. There was like Martin Trice, Dean Locke. There was some real good young anglers there. And I don't think some of the old boys liked it. And they were still picking teams based upon their mates at the end of the day. And don't get me wrong, that's how we run Meat Bashers. But when you're joining a team like Delcac, you almost feel like it should be a bit more professional. And there was people getting in the team that shouldn't be getting in the team. As it conspired a bit later on, I ended up getting chucked out the team, me and a couple of 3 others.
Come on, I've got to ask why.
You know
why?
At the time, I remember getting a phone call from Charlie Loveland. He rang us up and said, a few of us have had a chat and that, and he said, I don't think you're good enough for us or showing enough commitment towards us. So it was like, at the time, don't get me wrong, getting some results, doing well as a team and that. I was like a little bit taken back, if I'm honest. But it was like, okay, yeah, fine, fair enough. If that's how you feel, so be it. Where obviously I think it was a bit more deeper into that. I used to, like I said, Matt, I used to go out drinking Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I could always get up. I'd always be there, and I'd always give 100% commitment. At the end of the day, nobody wants to do bad, and although it's team fishing, there's certain plans, so they want you to fish a certain way. I'd like to think no matter how I fish, I'm never normally last, or obviously don't get me wrong, we all catch nothing sometimes, but even the way you fish, you're not going to win the match. And I don't think they could quite grasp that. They wanted you to be set in stone on how they wanted you to do it, and it wasn't always like that. At the end of the day, you had that cutting edge. You wanted to win. At the end of the day, if I had a peg that I felt had potential and I'd done the thing for the team, I wanted to push it.
So you fished more of an individual than a team, not to a team plan by the sounds. of
Not
things.
necessarily to a team plan. Don't get me wrong. If I'm coming back with results where I'm not like cutting it, sort of thing, then yeah, hold up. I need to look at my own fishing here. But we're fishing venues that I've fished, winning matches at constantly on the weekends and during the week and that. And you're being told to do something different because it's a team match where it didn't really work for me in regards to that, because I sit there and I think, well, no, I know I can do this or do that, and you're asked to go for fish for skimmers or something when you know you should be fishing for carp, and it's just, that's how I felt. And it was, to be honest, at the time I was a bit gutted, but it turned out it was probably the best thing that happened to me.
What's I've got to ask you before you move it on to something else. How much did the team frown upon your lifestyle of, like, I'm going out Thursday, Friday, Saturday and getting fishing in as well? Were that frowned upon as such?
Yeah, well, they didn't like it. Zach Brown at the time, he ended up splitting up with his partner at the time. So he was coming out, and Zach was a big part of their team, and they actually kicked him out at that point. And don't get me wrong, Zach should never have been kicked out. And about 3 weeks later, they actually asked him back, and he went back. Where personally, you wouldn't have seen me back there.
I did the same.
Exactly that. The next league that we actually had, we had a series of like a 6-match series. I'd actually won 5 of the series after they kicked us out. And
when you say won, you mean won the match
outright?
outright?
Won the match outright. And someone rang us up and they were like, "Oh, you're going to come back?" I was like, "No, I'm not.
Absolutely not. No.
Not a hope in hell's chance."
Right.
And it's just it was just politics and that I couldn't be getting involved with, or couldn't be. I enjoy my fishing at the end of the day, and I don't want somebody going to tell me how I should have fished, or okay, if I haven't caught anything, why I could have caught more, I should have done this or should have done that. At the end of the day, it's my fishing, not theirs.
Yeah, you're confident in your own ability.
Exactly.
Definitely.
That.
Do you think, do you think that going out before matches and stuff, do you think it ever hinders your performance, or it's ever cost you, or anything like negative has come out of that?
Do you know what? Once upon a time, I used to think I used to fish better when it was like. But I think there's pros and cons. Don't get me wrong. I don't really go out at all anymore. Don't really drink. But when I was winning loads of matches, to be fair. Sometimes I'd rock up like still half cut. My old man would pick me up. I've had him pick me up from parties before, while they're still going on.
Never.
And go straight to the match. But I think you almost simplify it, where somebody else who's a little bit unsure, they might go to their peg and think, I might set this up there, that, yeah, I'll do this, do that. I think, oh, right, I'll have a top kit that side, top kit there, top 5 and a long pole. And you make it work. And yeah, I'm sure there is certain times that, like...
Did you ever have a time where you had like a savage hangover in the middle of a match and it was just going horrendously?
Like I say, I've always been, drinking-wise, don't get me wrong, I'm not as good now, but I've always been pretty good. I literally, I used to... I'm one of them people that I'd get home at 5 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't even know where I've been, where my shoes are or anything, and I think I'll go to sleep for half an hour, my alarm will go up, I'm up, going fishing, go and do what we do. Then on the way home, my old man's driving home, I'm fast asleep. Go home, have a shower and go straight to bed. And
were you living with your mum and dad at the time?
Yeah.
And how did they take it when you were having these party animal days?
To be fair, I used to stay at mates' houses, vice versa. Half the time, my mum probably didn't even see it, which is probably a good thing.
Right. What's any particular stories stick out in your mind from like wild nights out before fishing?
I remember one night, it was my mate's I say my mate, it's actually my business partner now as well. I remember it was his 30th birthday at a barbecue, and just randomly, we were all, you know what it's like, you get egged on and things like that. I shotgunned a bottle of vodka. Probably most stupidest thing I could have done. So I'd done this bottle of vodka, and then all of a sudden the barbecue's wrapped up, and all of a sudden I think he's starting to kick in now.
What's shotgunning, by the way?
Shotgun, so literally put a straw into the bottle.
we call it a strawpedo.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
We used to do it with like VK Blues and think we were rock hard. Pete does it with a bottle of vodka.
Oh, I got a video somewhere.
Right.
But literally shotgun this bottle of vodka, and then I remember my mate saying, like, we all going out now, like we're moving on. I think we were going out to Croydon or something like that. So went past my mum and dad's house. I've gone to get dressed. I've walked out, not having a clue. I've got like a shirt on. I've got a pair of shorts on, white socks, and a pair of flip flops.
Oh, what an outfit!
No, the ladies love it, don't they? But then I remember going in. My mate, he's like, "Come on, go and get dressed." So that was that. In the end, I don't remember getting to my mate's house or absolutely nothing. The next morning, my alarm's gone off for fishing. So I'm thinking, oh God, I'm like in my boxers now on his sofa. I'm thinking, Jesus, like, where is he? Like, looking around his flat, he's not there. Gone to go out the door. No, he's locked me in. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? So I picked up the phone. I rang him up. I said, where are you? He said, I'm out. He said, I'm still out. I was like, oh, all right. I said,
partying still?
Oh yeah, I'm still out. So I said, we had a good night. He was like, are you having a laugh? He was like, you got back to my flat. He said, you practically passed out. He said, you were puking out. He said, I thought you were going to die. I was like, well, you can't have been that concerned. You've gone out.
I thought you were going to die, so I left you.
Locked you in.
Yeah. But I'm sitting there thinking now, like, oh, Jesus, I've got to go fishing in a minute. So I'm sitting there. I said, when are you going to be back? He said, I don't know. I was like, well, like, he's lived on the first floor flat, bear in mind. So I'm thinking, oh, right. So I've managed to find my clothes round the flat, all covered in puke, as you can imagine. So I thought, right, I'll get dressed. Well, I looked out on the balcony. I thought, I've got to get down. I've got to go fishing. I literally, first floor flat, I jumped off the balcony. And looking back now, you think, what an idiot. But yeah, didn't hurt myself. And quick call to my old man. It's like, oh, come pick us up. I'm here, I'm ready.
Wow. And can you remember the match?
Oh, no, from that one I can't actually.
I'm not surprised.
I'd love to turn around and say, oh, yeah, it was the best match ever and just absolutely smashed it up. But yeah, I think that seriously was a...
I'd have loved to have seen the state of you as your old man come to pick you up. What did he say anything to you as you got in that time?
I'd seen it every weekend.
Used to it.
I used to get absolutely hammered every weekend. Like, sometimes didn't even realise where I'd been or anything. Don't remember getting home. But then literally that alarm would go and I'm like, that's fishing time.
Unreal. I need some training. I can remember talking to you at a show. Didn't you spend some time abroad in like Greece or something as well?
Yeah, done a 2006. Don't get wrong, we had boys' holidays. Boys' holidays were the best holidays. Absolutely loved them. First one, we went to Kavos in 2004. I think we went to Zante in 2005. And then there was three of us. We were like, we're going to work a summer in Greece.
No other fishermen. No one will know.
No other fishermen. Don't get me wrong, Zach come out there, Brown. And I remember we were staying miles away out in a place called Stallis, like from Malia. And he's come out there. He's got out about, I don't know, it was about 7 o'clock at night, something like that. I was like, Zach, whatever you do not lose us. I said, because where we're staying, I said, it is like in the middle of absolutely nowhere. And he was like, yeah. Zach at the time, you know, like he's had a big, thick old gold chain, thick bracelet.
I can't imagine Zach Brown in Malia.
So he was like, well, don't lose him. So like me and my mate, my other mate Ron that knows Zach. So we're there. We've gone to work like doing PRing of the night. So our other mate was out there. He had the night off. So he was like, oh, I'll look after him. Blah blah blah. Well, this Rick, he was the beach boy. Like during the day, like bodybuilder, good-looking bloke. All he used to do is just go and nick birds, left, right, and centre.
Right.
And first opportunity of a like sniff of a bird, that's it. He's gone. So he's left. He's left Zach in Malia. Zach's just gone around, walking around the place. You randomly see him like pop up at the bar you're working at, like absolutely hammered. It got to a point. It was like about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Now we're walking up and down the strip looking for him. Nowhere to be seen. I'm like, oh my God, I can't, like, he doesn't even know where we're staying.
It's like something off The Hangover.
It's like Malia has him now.
Do not know where he's staying, where we're staying at all. And then we literally, in the end, we had to give up. We went back to our room. We had to give up. I'm not joking. It must have been about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. knock on the door. It's like, open it. I was like, no, it can't be. Zach's turned around. He's like, oh my God. He was like, I slept on the beach. He was like, I was like, how did you even find us? He said, I don't have a clue. He said, I've been walking, like I was walking for hours. In the end, I just got on the beach. And he was like, he must have just passed out. We were thinking, he must have had all his gold and that, Nick. Nothing was gone, and that was that sort of thing. But
what a story. Good old Zach.
oh, some
I've got to
great.
throw that one up. as well.
Look at that. Flipping heck, Pete. Which one are you here?
The one on the left.
Oh, my God.
No tattoos there either.
Folks, that you guys and girls listening, there's a picture. It's obviously a nightclub or something called Zigzag of 6 lads doing some weird posing on screen.
I'm sure it was perfectly feasible at the time.
So what were it like? What was a year in Malia like
Oh
for,
my
for
God,
you?
unbelievable! It was good. It
Working or partying or both?
But every night, used to go out every single night. Working, to be honest, we used to do a bit of working, not really, to be fair. It was.
Doing our
I think I worked in every bar there. Lasted a day or two, got sacked. I just wanted to go out.
Right.
We'd saved up some money and had too much. Like, because you're making friends out there, all your mates are working in the bars. You're going in the bar, you're not paying for drinks and things like that. You're going to the beach during the day. It was brilliant. It was, yeah.
Were there any fishing over there? Did you do any fishing while you were there?
No.
So that were a complete year out of fishing.
Just trying to chase women. But I remember there was one girl, like, got chatting to her and that. I think she'd been on holiday too long. She wanted to be like the next big MC. She was absolutely awful. She started singing to me, she started MCing to me, going, me in a red dress, you in a blue shirt, and all this.
Oh,
And
no.
I remember we ended up, we went back to mine and getting down like you do.
Yeah.
And randomly she started shouting out Shabba. Like she's still MCing. It's like Shabba. I'm like, my God, what have I brought back here?
Imagine if she started shouting out Pete the Meat.
Oh.
Pete the Meat!
There's no fear of that.
Wow. And what happened to her? Never saw her again?
Oh, no.
Right. Wow.
Mad as March air.
Was Malia in the middle of fishing? It was
Yeah, right in the middle of fishing. Literally just.
I'm having a year out.
Where you just took the summer out, basically.
Didn't do any harm, mate, did it?
No, I've literally. Don't get me wrong. I obviously miss fishing. That was the biggest concern when I was going, but I like drinking and partying with my mates at the same time.
And when did you plan to only go for a year?
Yeah, literally just that summer. That's all it was. Just to say that we've done it, really. Like I say, loved the boys' holidays. I carried on going on boys' holidays after that as well.
Awesome. You ever been to Malia, Tobe?
I have been to Malia, yeah.
You've got to have a story for us.
Yeah, I had the. I was going to ask you, Pete, if you had any raki when you were out there,
Oh,
which is like there. Man, the only way. Have you ever had some?
I went to Malia 2009, so I reckon I've had some racket.
It just best way I can describe it was like tractor fuel. It was just you'd have a shot and it just all your insides would burn. But we discovered it one night when we went out for a meal and they give you some at the end, like when you have the bill. We were like 17 and we were like, whoa, this stuff's epic. So we went out that night and we were like, we're just going to drink raki all night, which was stupid, really, because it was like something ridiculous, like 50, 60%, something like that.
Not the one, that is
Not
it?
the one.
Oof.
Anyway, after going through bar to bar to bar, we eventually found a bar that'd give us raki. I said, how much for a shot? He went, €1. I went, I've got €10. And that was it. Just lined them up, me and a friend. We had 10 shots of raki each. Bang, bang, bang. I couldn't do it now. I'd throw up after 2. And I was telling Pete earlier, I had the best time of my life for about 20 minutes. Honestly, I was just loving life. And then I remember coming to underneath a table in a restaurant, which is, you just shouldn't be underneath a table in a restaurant.
What are you doing
and
under there?
And I remember thinking clearly, right, Tobe, you need to move. I couldn't move. So I was like, it was like that scene out of Wolf on Wall Street. I went, right, let's try rolling. I was like, right, we can roll. Good. So I started to roll out. And I remember getting to the curb and everyone looking at me. I was like, right, don't worry about them. Can we crawl? Couldn't crawl. So I did like some backwards worm for a bit. Got a bit of fresh air. It started to come around. So then I could crawl. And honestly, I crawled all the way down the strip, back to my hotel, up the stairs. And when I got back to my room, I couldn't stand up. I haven't stood up for hours by this point. I remember sitting by the door, banging my head on the door. I didn't have a key to get in. but I was in a really bad way. The manager's coming up trying to let me in and stuff like that. Anyway, I got in the room and I filled my friend's suitcase with vomit and passed out.
Oh, no.
Back on it again.
And that was it. I went out the next day.
I don't know. After the Malia madness and the Shabba girl that I love, by the way, I hope I meet her one day. What happened to Pete the Meat when you returned back from that year or summer? Was it straight back into match fishing?
Straight back into it. Probably would have been. I would have been absolutely gagging to go fishing, Matt. It would have been straight back into it. First match, let's get on it. It would have been straight back.
Would you have had any sort of sponsorship or anything at any point, Pete?
Literally, as I'd done that summer there. Literally come back like to the back end of it, so whatever that would be, August, September time. I got approached by Midi, by Alec Roberts, and he turned around and said to us, he said before you joined Delcac, there was discussions, and you would have actually got a sponsorship with them then, but obviously being with Delcac, done the summer, come back, asked me. And took on like full sponsorship with them.
Fantastic.
Yeah, at the time it was. Well, to be fair, I think that was sort of at the time when sponsorship wasn't such a big thing, and there was very few people that actually had an individual sponsorship.
And was it a paid sponsorship or just tackle? Or?
Just literally just tackle. I could basically order what I wanted from them. And don't get me wrong, obviously some things Midi tackle that they did at the time didn't appeal to us or just wasn't relevant to like our style of fishing, but there was bits and that I used for like elastics and things like that. It was absolutely brilliant for what I wanted, and like floats and lines, just everything like to help you out was mega basically.
Yeah. Midi. First time I ever got into the England youth team, I remember writing to a few tackle companies saying, can I get a bit of help with terminal tackle?
Yeah.
And it was Rob Wotton at the time, but Midi sorted me right out with loads of stuff.
Yeah.
They've done loads of good stuff, haven't they?
Loads
of good stuff.
Like you say, it's like they were brilliant. For the bits that I used, it was absolutely brilliant. Some of it, a lot of it, wouldn't even look twice at.
Yeah.
But yeah.
63-13 hooks, can you remember that?
Oh, brilliant.
6313s.
Yeah.
Awesome.
To be fair, I still use one of the elastics now with the blue.
The beastie stuff, the blue Ola.
Yeah, still use it now. Love it.
Mega.
And it's like anything. Once you've used something for so long, you get confidence. It's like, well, why change?
Yeah.
Bit like being so stubborn with a puller bung, not wanting to change. But I'll probably use something else and go, oh my God, what the hell have I been using that for?
I can remember at magazine testing a few Midi poles and that as well. So mega. That was lovely, mate. And how long were you with Midi for then?
I was with Midi for nearly 10 years. It turned out in the end. So yeah, they but to be unfair, brilliant company. Like you say, Rob Wotton was. When I first was there, it was just Dave Middleton that sort of sorted it out. You used to send him I don't even think it was an email. He probably used to ring up at the time. Used to sort him out. Then it went to Rob Wotton. Then I think it was Craig Butterfield that took on after that.
Right. Awesome stuff. And during your time at Midi, I've got to talk about this, and I'm going to ask you some heavy stuff with you. You probably won the biggest competition you've ever won in your life.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
We're talking about the Maver Match This Final.
Mm-hmm.
£65,000.
That's correct.
And I'm led to believe that is the second biggest amount of money ever won in angling.
Yeah, I think there's two people have won 70, I think, aren't there? John Wincup.
Yes.
And
did Jamie win a 70, Jamie Hughes?
I'm not sure who the other one was. I don't think it was Jamie.
I don't know if there were two 70s, mate, to be honest.
Maybe it was just John Wincup, which was the year after.
Yeah.
The year after me.
Right.
There you go, Matt. I've chucked that up there as well.
Look at him there. That's a face and a half,
That
isn't
is
it?
a face.
Looks like he's about to say Shabba, doesn't he? Wow.
The big old fat cheeks.
£65,000.
Wow.
I'm going to ask you a lot of questions about the Match This Final. You got to expect that. But big money matches and this kind of competition, Pete, where did that journey start for you? When did these life-changing summer money finals come onto the scene for you?
It was I would have thought there was a chap called John Bell that, from our point of view, was the the first taste of bigger money matches. Don't get me wrong, we used to have one at Stud Pond, which was the pole final, I think run by Dave Johnson at the time, which used to be £1,000. And John Bell done like the next level. It was fish for 3k, which was mega money in fishing at the time. I would have thought that was about 2009, 2008, if I had to guess. Something around those times, which was the biggest, like the bigger money matches. Don't get me wrong, in the end that competition took a turn for the worst, and all different things went on in there. Don't get me wrong, Robbie Taylor actually went on to win that final.
Got ya. There's a picture on screen here.
Which was at Monk Lake. That was my qualification. I think that was at Wylands Fishery.
Right. Is that Dean Locke on the left?
That's Dean Locke, yeah.
I did a feature with Dean
Did you?
years ago, yeah.
Yeah, Dean. I still speak to Dean like quite a lot. He only lives round the corner from us, sort of thing.
Brilliant.
Still a good mate.
I can remember, now I've seen that banner there, the £3,000 match series. I can remember it being talked about and in Angling Times and stuff like that.
At the time it was a big thing. It was, I think you used to have two qualifiers, or two people used to qualify from each round, and the final was set to be at Lake John. And in the end, it actually went to Monk Lakes in the end on Lake 2 for other reasons and what's not. Which it ended up ending the competition, sort of thing. I think that John Bell had some money stolen or something along those lines.
Right. So that was the first taste of like, hang on a minute, these are exciting.
Yeah, and just see one of your mates win it. It's like, well, I remember. I can't remember exactly who it was sharing, but I know it was me, Robbie. I think it was probably Zach Brown.
Do you three share money all the time? Then
any match like that, we generally share. Like just a freeway split, because a lot of the time splitting the travelling, going up here, there and everywhere. I've jumped in with Zach, Zach's jumped in with me. Robbie used to go with Zach a lot. Now I've moved nearer to Robbie, so Robbie often comes with us.
There's one common denominator here.
Yeah,
no one goes with Robbie.
Yeah, Robbie's a ponce.
Yeah, Robbie just gets in with everyone else.
Exactly that.
Right,
yeah,
right.
so whoever will pick him up or closest to him, he'll just sell himself off cheap.
Do you think that's why he's still got a little white hairdresser's car?
Oh.
Can't get two sets of gear in that, can you?
What does he drive on, Robbie?
I think it's like an Audi or
he's got a
something.
little A3, isn't
A3,
he?
yeah. Yeah, he's
It's a giveaway for something, isn't it?
well, he's very well groomed as
Yeah.
well, and he does all his eyebrows and
He does, doesn't he?
yeah, plucks them. And
We'll have a separate podcast with him, definitely. So three-way split. I've got to ask you, then, if you, Bobby and Pete were all in a £60,000 final, would you three-way split that, do you think?
we'd definitely have a divvy up. I don't think you wouldn't split that sort of money. I think you'd probably have five grand. I would have said, to be fair, what we actually said on the last golden reel that Robbie that Robbie qualified for on the semi-final on the new setup that they had there, we actually agreed if either of us qualified on that, we'd have a 10 grand split on the final.
Got you.
And obviously Robbie did qualify, but unfortunately didn't win it.
Well, we'll talk about that one a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
So you were sharing with Zach and Bobby.
Yep.
£3,000 match got your attention. What were next after that in terms of big money matches?
I think it was, it's got to be the Maver. And don't get me wrong, tell a lie, sorry, probably Fishermania. If Fishermania was obviously, been running for years, hasn't it? I think the first taste I had on that was similar sort of time as the fish for 3k. I had a second at the Viaduct.
Oof.
Missed out.
It was only one qualifier.
One qualifier. I'd missed out. I thought I drew Lodge Lake, which no one really wanted to draw, up in the top corner. Don't get me wrong, brilliant peg for that lake, and it just suited me. It's just fishing down the edge, basically from back to back. I ended up missing out by about £3.
Oh no!
So that was the first taste of, hold up, I want to get in one of these. And then for a fair while, I probably had 5 or 6 seconds, few thirds, quite a few framing places, win your lake. At the end of the day, the most you can do, or the best you can do, is win your lake and just hope you're on the better lake most of the time. And it's heartbreaking at the same time, some of them qualifiers, like the dedication that you have to put into them with travel, preparation.
Money as well, I suppose.
Money as well, yeah. And a lot of the time, you're not really catching a lot. Some of them, you'll go for a run where you'll have the best matches ever, and you're catching a load of fish, and then you'll draw some places. You're literally driving. Well, for us, like it's a lot of them. We're doing 6 hours, 7 hours travelling, like in a day for a qualifier.
And for one place, or with one place qualifying up for grabs, that's a lot of time and effort. What advice would you give to people who maybe are going to go on some qualifiers or who are thinking about it to not get disheartened or to stay positive? Because it must grind you down a bit when you're doing that sort of driving, that sort of money, time and effort,
without doubt,
and not getting in.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Me personally, I always try to pick venues that suit me. At the end of the day, you've got to. I think you need a balance. Like obviously, you've got your Bennetts and Jamie Hughes and that's their business. At the end of the day, they've got to they've got to chase their matches and do it all the time and practically try and go on as many as they can. Where for me, I like to pick the venues that suit me, that I feel that will suit my fishing or how I want to fish. I don't go on every qualifier. There's certain limit that I won't go past, like driving wise, and I don't get to fish as much now as what I used to. Sometimes I'm only going once a weekend. Don't get me wrong, I'd get out every weekend, but it might only be for the once. Where sometimes I might want to stay local and catch a load of fish at the end of the day. So I think it's ultimately at the beginning, I think you've got to pick places that are right for you. It's pointless, like I don't do certain styles of fishing now, and it's pointless me going there and on a venue that's all, I don't know, fishing like even like the feeder masters and things like that going on a reservoir. I've got no interest in fishing a feeder masters on a reservoir, so it's pointless me going there because I wouldn't give it my all. Because deep down, I probably wouldn't think that I'm good enough to do it.
You've got to do what you're interested in, what you enjoy doing, what you're keen for.
Without a doubt. And the thing is, if you know that a certain venue, like say for instance Larford, you know that the venue suits your style of fishing, big fish, you catch them on a waggler, you catch them in the edge, short pole, you're halfway there because you know that, yeah, I can do that. I'm good at fishing what I want to do. Don't get me wrong, there'll be days that it won't work, but at least you've got that basis to do that, and you'll hopefully catch some fish. You might nick a section, might win a lake win, and just keeps your interest up. There's nothing worse. Let's be fair, Matt. We're all fishermen. None of us like going fishing to catch nothing.
No, even a section win after a 3.5 hour drive there and an hard day in the sun on a not great peg. A 50 quid section win and getting your ticket money back is a...
Oh, we all get spent on KFC, to be fair.
I've got to ask, what is there a mindset you think that's required to win these qualifiers? Is there a killer edge? Because the same people you've mentioned to already, Andy Bennett, Jamie Hughes, but I can name loads of people that consistently qualify, you've been one of them, for finals, big money matches, etc. There must be a mindset or some killer instinct in you that helps. I
think you it's like anything in fishing. There's always, I always find in matches, you've got your consistent people that will always catch fish, and they always do well, but they don't necessarily win matches. You always find there's a group of people that win matches. They've got that cutting edge. I've made the mistake so many times on big matches where you think, I've got to hit this hard, I've got to do this, got to do that. Where your likes of Jamie, Bennett and that, they're cool under pressure. They know that what they do is right. And when they're fishing something, 9 times out of 10, they're doing it right. So it's confidence in what you do. At the end of the day, how many times have you like caught nothing and you think, oh Jesus, what's going on here? Then by the end of the match you've sussed it out. I always think, for me personally, I'd rather be catching at the end of the match than the beginning of the match, because the beginning of the match there's maybe fish in other people's swims or there's fish mooching around, where the end of the match I feel like the fish want to feed, and if you've got it right then and you've got fish feeding how you want them to feed, you're in a lot better position than those that might have mugged a few early, or some that have caught them on a long pole and now they've drifted off because they're moving into like different patrol areas.
Interesting, mate, and a great bit of advice for people. That I've never really heard anyone say it like that before. I'd rather catch at the end of the match than the start of the match.
Without a shadow of a doubt.
I think a lot of anglers think the opposite. I've got to go in, got to start catching straight away. Panic if it's not happening.
Do you know what? Most of my fishing, I generally find I'll catch a few early because there's some mugfish to be caught. The middle of the match, I don't normally catch a lot, and then towards the end, for me personally, I'd like to think I've sussed something out, and I'm catching them when they want to be caught. Well, not that they don't want to be caught, but when they're eating.
Got ya. What's talk to me about qualifying for this final that you actually won. It was it 2015?
2015, yeah.
2015. Which one was that? Was that the second ever one?
No, it was about the fourth, I think.
Right.
So I think who won it first? Was it Andy
Power
won it first, then Zach.
Yeah.
Then it was Les Thompson.
Yeah. And then you.
Then me.
So what happened when you qualified? Where did you qualify? Can you recall that match?
Oh, yeah. To be fair, we'd go into the viaduct, like the viaduct. They love meat there. So
Beat the meat, you're going to viaduct.
Like that, yeah. So it was all talks, always, generally, you want to draw on the Campbell Lake at the viaduct. There's just more fish in there. Bit more consistent. It is just a match lake. They don't allow pleasure fishing there, so it's only fished on match days. Sorry. So I've drawn a peg 112, absolute rocket ship. It's bang on in the epicentre of where you want to be.
Did you shout Shabba when you threw it?
Shabba. But yeah, right in the epicentre. On the day, there was fish spawning, absolutely millions. So there was, Robbie actually drew next to us on 111 that day. And from 110 up to about 115, 116 on my bank, and then the bank opposite on the spit, I can't remember what the numbers are, where the spit comes out, there was millions of fish spawning absolutely everywhere in the edges. And the good thing about 112 is you practically turn around on yourself and fish up towards a pipe that's along the bank. So I remember saying, I set up, well, like, as you do, set up all your bits. And I remember saying to someone, I said, if I catch one first drop, I said, like, if they're going to be, they were heavily spawning. I said, if I can catch one first drop, this is game on. And I reckon I dropped my rig in, had one on within about 3 seconds.
Love it.
And I probably qualified in the first 2 hours of that. Yeah, it was ridiculous. My peg, don't get me wrong, my edge was bigger. It had a longer edge than everyone else. And if I remember rightly, we all know you need to be lucky in these qualifiers. 113 actually wasn't drawn, so I had an even bigger edge to, like, don't get me wrong, it was one of the best on there anyway, and now I've been given an empty peg as well. And it was just ridiculous. The first 2 hours, every single drop, I had a fish.
A big carp.
Oh yeah, they were from 4 to 10 pound. And it was just every single drop, little blob of meat mush, down the edge, clonk, you'd have one on. And there was 3 or 4 of us that were catching, not as quick as what I was catching. I had more fish in my peg at the end of the day. Robbie was next to us, was catching. Zach actually drew the point where they were all like round as well. All 3 of us had drawn pegs where we had a massive chance. And I think as it turned out, I was first, Robbie was second, I think Zach was 4th that day.
Unreal. Is this the catch shot from the day?
Yeah, that's the day. I can't even remember what weight I had. To be fair, I think it was a 200 and something, but it was about 268 pound if I remember rightly.
And what was second?
Robbie had about 170, I think.
So you've annihilated
To be fair, the first 2 hours I probably had 200 pound. It was just ridiculous. Every single drop you had one, and then all them spawning fish like just disappeared then, and then like they do, the lakes go a bit moody, and then right towards the end we start catching some fish again.
What was that, the first super big money match you'd qualified for?
Yes.
And how did it feel when you first qualified, having had some close calls?
It was a bit surreal, really. Remember ringing my old man up, telling him, and he's like, oh yeah, like as you do, you're like proud father sort of thing. He's like, oh, you could win the final, like, and you sort of start. Don't get me wrong, Viaduct was Larford is a place that I'd always done well at,
which is where the final was.
Yeah, where the final was. I'd obviously watched Zach win it 2 years previous. The years that Zach had the year that Zach won as well, I was second on a qualifier, the last qualifier the week before that as well. So we had, between us, we had methods that we were working at Larford. So it's like, God, do you know what? Stand a chance here. And I always think with them, with the qualifiers and the final, I think the hardest thing is the qualifier at the end of the day. You've got to win like a 120 peg, 150 peg match.
Which is a lot more difficult than a 24
pegger, yeah, exactly that. Don't get me wrong. Obviously, it's the finals. Well, let's be fair, they're star-studded finals, aren't they?
I want to take my autograph book every time I go to one because it's the who's who, innit? Every single time.
And they're getting younger and younger.
Yeah, definitely. Prep and build up to the final that you actually won. What did you do and how did it go?
Don't get me wrong. I remember Robbie we took 2 or 3 days off work, something along those lines. So we went up there.
You and Robbie Taylor.
Yeah. Literally, he was the bank runner for the day on the day. So we went up there. I hadn't really fished. I don't even think all the times I'd been up to Larford, I don't think I'd ever drawn the grass bank.
On the match lake?
On the match lake.
Right.
So we went up there. We had 2 or 3 days. We obviously caught loads of fish. Just doing what you do sort of thing. Don't know if we really learned anything. Not sure if it was even really worth it, but it got you in. It got you into the excitement for it. The week previous to the final, Phil always used to run. So the top 5 from each qualifier used to have qualify for a pole champs. So it used to be spread across the Specie, the match lake and arena lake. So he always used to run that, and then what he used to do was coincide it with the Maver pairs, which originally the Maver pairs you always used to have to qualify for, where the last back end of them, the last 2 or 3 years, it was literally a case of just booking on to the final. So we'd obviously booked into that on the Saturday. I drew N peg on the match lake, on the Burbank, behind the island. Again, absolutely, it's not even in the. I drew a peg that's never in the final.
So you're not even going to get a practice on a peg.
So I've drawn a peg that's not even in the final. Don't get me wrong, Maver pairs. Robbie's drawn N peg on the Specie lake. Not normally an end that you want, but the wind had turned around that morning, was hammering up his end. And I remember speaking to him. He was like, throughout the match, he was like, "How are you getting on?" I said, "Oh yeah, I've caught a few. I'm there or thereabouts." Blah blah blah. He was like, "I'm blanking." He was like, "I'm blanking." So I was like, "Oh, right." I said, "It is what it is. Don't worry about it." I said, "At the end of the day, we know what the Specie lake's like." And then about an hour and a half to go, I remember him calling me out. He was like, "I've just caught one." And he actually went on to win the match.
Never.
He just caught absolute animals in the edge. They just weren't eating on there. Moody lake at times, the Specie lake, and they just rocked up in his edge.
And what did he end up with, Bobby? Then
It was only a low weight. It was about 160 £. I say low weight.
Yeah, still a massive weight, but
160 £. You're probably talking 13, 14 fish on the Specie lake. Turned out that on my lake, I won my section and come third in the match. So we'd had a first and a third in the match, and obviously won the Maver pairs. The Saturday before the final, it's like absolutely buzzing, won a few quid.
Confidence is well up at this point.
Absolutely massive. The next day, thinking, right, pole champs, draw anywhere on that match lake and I'll be happy, just so I can have a practice. I drew the point on the Specie lake.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
So the far bank.
Far bank
yeah.
on the point. So brilliant peg again on the pole champs. So it's like, right. So.
But again, you're not having a practice, are you?
No, not having a practice. Robbie drew the match lake, so obviously he was going to try a few bits in that. But again, I ended up coming second overall on the pole champs that day. Caught a few dobbing and then a few at 5 metres and some in the edge on there. And we've had a weekend. The week before, we've won the Maver pairs. And then I've come second in the pole champs. So it's like, my God, I'm on top of the world. It's easier. And you must have had it. When fishing flows, it just seems easy at times.
When it's going for you.
Yeah, it is. Literally, you draw, you don't think anything of it. Even pegs that you wouldn't necessarily want, you're going there and winning off pegs and things like that at venues. And you're just like, well, it's because your confidence is so high. And you know, going back to what we said, you know what you're doing's right. And I was confident. I wanted to be the way I fished, I wanted to be anywhere on the Burbank.
Why is that, Pete? What made you think that would be an advantage for you?
Purely for the fact I couldn't catch them in the edge on the grass bank. They come in a bit later on there. You end up seeing them most of the time, and they're fish. They come in, you get 5 or 6 fish, 7 fish, 10 fish in your peg, and you just don't get a bite. They can be really tricky, and then other times they just give themselves up just like that, and you think, what have I done different? I've even fished there before where for an hour you don't get a bite. Next thing you know, you've caught 100 pound of them. But I wanted to draw the Burbank purely for the fact on a top 5 is deeper and the edges were deeper. You couldn't see the bottom. And for me personally, I wanted to fish meat at 5 metres because I felt that I could probably nick a few there and then meet in the edge with some ground bait later on. And that was where I'd had more success on that bank for how I wanted to fish.
And come the final, what happened in the draw bag?
I drew, so on the day it was peg 20, which would have been permanent peg 58. So it's about 3/4 of the way down. And all the buzz, like it all is on all matches, where you want to draw, it's M peg, yeah, you want permanent peg 28. You don't want to be past the blue rope. That was all the buzz all the way. So I'm 3/4 of the way down. I'm about 3 pegs down from the blue rope.
As in the bottom end of the lake towards the cafe.
Exactly that. So not totally. Don't get me wrong. I probably had. I'm one of them that even when I draw absolutely awful, I'm like, I'm going to catch a load here. I'm going to empty it.
Confidence.
And I've always been like that, and half the time you end up with, like, even on pegs, you think, oh my God, what did I say that for? But I was quietly confident that I'm happy there. Don't get me wrong. I would have liked to have been in the epicentre where everyone wanted to be, but I was like, no, I'm on the edge of where I think it suits me. Come the morning, obviously got to a pegs, freezing cold, blowing the wind, and you know what it's like at Larford, Matt. The wind often blows up into the bowl towards the end peg, like permanent peg 28.
Yeah, up near the island that way.
Often blows there. Well, overnight it swung round. So it was blowing down towards my end. And on arrival, got to my peg. We're all sitting down as you do, like tackling up. Like it's a lot more laid back. You get a lot of time to set up your gear. And all of a sudden, just sitting there, seen one top.
A car? Yeah,
seen one top, like 5 sections. Then all of a sudden, a bit later on, another one. Then one in the middle, then another one. And there was a pattern, that there was a few fish within about 3 or 4 pegs just topping. So I'm thinking, oh God, this is all right. Like, then somebody else come down, they say, oh no, there's millions up there by the rope and all this. And you think, oh right, well maybe it's just everywhere then. But there was fish mooching around. So I was like, oh right, might stand a chance here, you know.
Deep down, what were you thinking then?
I genuinely thought, yeah, do you know what? This we stand a chance. This is on. And started the match, starting on the top 5, and never had a bite. And I was like, oh my God, like looked at Robbie and like, don't know. So put another section on top 6. I've caught a skimmer, probably 8 ounces.
And how far into the match is this?
It's probably an hour in.
Right.
You've got Phil on the mic going, oh yeah, he's just landed a great big un and
Phil
all this.
Briscoe.
Like he does. You'd think everyone was caught £1,000 the time the match is finished.
Yeah.
But I've caught a skimmer about 8 ounces. It's like, Jesus, like had a chuck on a lead, like nothing. Like, set up a long pole, and then in the end, about probably 2.5 hours into the match now, I've got 1 skimmer in the net.
Unreal. Halfway through,
I've got 1 skimmer in the net.
And who was winning? Who was in front at this point? Were there a few people catching?
There was a few people. I think a lot of them were from the grass bank where they've all caught some early fish. There was a few people that had caught some fish, not loads, probably. You're probably talking about 30, 40 pounds that had been caught at this moment. But I'm sitting there with 1 skimmer.
What's going through your head at that point?
It's disappointment, really. At the end of the day, it's like qualified for your first final, and you think, well, that's it, I'm out of it. The only good thing was at that point, my section, I think, started to my left which was John Wincup next to us, and then it went down to the end peg to the right. And I think John Wincup was winning my section with like 2 carp or 3 carp, something like that he just caught shallow, what John does, and
Flapping away. Yeah.
So it was, I don't know what to do here sort of thing. Gone out 16 metres. I've ended up like kindering in some meat. I cut the cubes out, hooked one, caught carp, probably caught the smallest carp in laughing at that time. It was like 2.5 pound. I'm like, right, I was like, well, it's a start, isn't it? Gone out there, I think the next drop, I've got broken one. I'm like, oh my God. Like this is terrible.
Did you think this is not going to happen? It's not my day.
Oh, without doubt. Not bearing in mind, not seen a fish since them early ones in the morning. And then I said to Robbie, I said, I'm going to have to feed me edge earlier than what I wanted to. I think I'd set myself a time that I wanted to give it like an hour and a half. I think in all aspects of fishing, it's being in the right part of your peg at the right time. Like I said earlier, I'd rather be catching fish when they want to eat. And the easiest place to catch them, I find, is in the edge. So I thought to myself, right, I'm going to feed me edge a little bit earlier. Would have been 2 hours to go, almost on the nose. I think it prompted me to do that. Lee Thornton, 2 pegs up, had hooked one at 5 sections, and that was the first fish that had been caught on a short pole or wasn't shallow or on a lead. So I thought, right, I'm going to feed it a bit earlier. I had a little tree stump to my right, and I thought, I'm going to take this easy. I'm going to feed a blob of meat down there.
What, the mush?
Yeah, little blob of meat. Like, I'm talking probably golf size ball. And I'll have a go on the long pole again. I said to Robbie, I said, like, keep an eye on that. Like, got all my family and everything behind me. And I remember Miles Levy, he turned around and said to Robbie, he said, Robbie, he said, I think there's one there. He said, I think there's one there. Like, because obviously they're stood up on the bank watching
big
down.
Big tall bank behind you there, aren't you?
So he said, I said, right, let's get down there. Let's have a go. It would have been about an hour and 50 minutes of the match left now. Dropped in, kindred in a little bit of meat, and I remember just sitting there for about 5 or 6 minutes. I was like, I think I've just had a liner. And Robbie was like, you sure that was a liner? And I'm not joking, the float about 3 seconds after went under. Bam. Like, got one on. I said to Robbie, I said this could be on here. Literally, first fish. I said, this could be on.
Bearing in mind, at this point, you've got Akar and Askimmer in your net.
I'm stone cold last. Stone
last on the match.
Stone cold last. I've literally had my first drop, and I've caught one.
And this could be on.
And I said to him, I said, this could be on now. I said, if I feed that other side, and I can catch one, I said, we're in business here. And I remember...
I love that confidence, mate. I love it.
Say, the mindset, yeah, that's pretty incredible.
And I remember feeding the other side.
So you landed this one?
Landed that one. I refed that side. I've fed the other side for the first time now. And I've dropped back into my right, sitting there. And all of a sudden, the float's gone out. Little liner again. My old man, from up on the bank, he's going, go on, strike.
I love that.
And... I've struck, bell waved out my peg. I've just looked at him. I'm like, are you for real? I was like, what are you doing? I was like, I said to Robbie, I said, I would never, ever have struck at that in a million years. And my old man, like, he's cowered back. He actually walked off. He's walked off. He's gone around the lake. I've had a good look on the left. It was like, clonk, got one on. I was like, right, this. And literally, I could not have had a better match. The last half of the match, I was literally feeding some bait, like a little blob of meat to my right, leave that, have a look to my left, and a lot of the time I would catch one either side and just alternating between each side. Towards the end, I had to feed some ground bait to my left, but I always kept one line where I'd just feed little blobs of meat. And at times, the blob of meat one was better. And then other times the ground bait one was better.
And where you were feeding the ground bait, what were you fishing on the hook?
Meat again. I still what I was doing, I was still feeding a little blob of meat in my kinder pot so they could try and home it in on that. But I was just a pot of ground bait, little bit of meat that side, and then to the right hand side, literally just a blob of meat. And it was every time I fed, I got fish in my swim.
And what were going through your mind? At what point did you realise, say, I can win this, I'm going to win this?
It was literally Frankie at the time.
Frankie Gianancelli, who works for us now, yeah.
Yeah, so he was similar. He was actually, to be fair, he was probably borderline as bad as me. He was borderline last in the match as well. And he'd seen me catch my one, first drop, and a lot of people hadn't done nothing. He had Lee Carey sat behind him. He's obviously probably said, look, let's get some bait in. There's some fish to be caught in the edge. And Frankie's dropped in and caught one same sort of time. I felt like I was catching quicker than Frankie. I always felt like I was catching quicker than him. For whatever reason, his fish seemed just bigger, just one of them things. But every time I fed, I had fish in my swim, and it was just, it became real with about 40 minutes to go. It's like, oh my God, like, I'm well up there. I've come from, like, in half an hour, I've probably come from last to borderline winning it, like, as quick as that. Between me, I would have said Lee Thornton at the time, and then Frankie chasing.
And what, was you nervous? Were you scared? Were you ever uneasy about it?
Not at that point. Just, Matt, everything went right. I had fish. I had a couple of fish where they're hooked not on the edge of the mouth. I've had one in the head. Everyone come in.
Not lost a fish.
Everyone come in, and it's. I've got all my family and friends behind me now shouting.
I bet that was an epic thing.
Oh my God! Honestly, every time you landed one, I got my missus. She's going, "Go on, my man, go on,
Shabba!"
But she's going absolutely crazy. Not really knowing what it is, because I remember Miles, like my missus afterwards said something. She said, Miles turned around and said, I think he's going to win this. And my missus gone, what do you know? She said, do you go fishing? What do you know about fishing and all this? He was like, well, yeah, I'm pretty good. He said, I know what the crack is, sort of thing. She was like, whoa. And it was mad. And then with 15 minutes to go, it become serious. Like, oh my God, this is real. And my peg started to go. I could get literally
mate,
like that. And I'm thinking, oh no, please don't slip away. So Frankie's caught another one without me catching one. And on the whistle, I'd not caught fish the last 15 minutes. On the whistle, Frankie hooked one and he was playing one. And everyone's going, oh my God, it's going to be close. It's going to be that. It's going to be that. And Robbie said to me, he said, you've beat him. He said, you've beat him. I'm one of them people that I'm pretty good with weights. I know what you've caught, like, and I'm not even on the fishery. Like, I just like to talk to people. But I'm pretty good at seeing what everyone else has caught and everything. I didn't have a clue what I had. Didn't have a clue. Robbie had clicked my fish and he went...
Why do you think that was? Because you were just so intense into what were happening.
Yeah, I don't know. He said, I'll click your fish, but I just blanked it out, which is not like me, because I know what everyone's caught come the end of the match. And he literally just said, you've got this. He said, you have got this, I'm telling you. He said, that fish is not going to make a blind bit of difference.
Did you believe him?
No, of course I didn't. But obviously, I probably did believe him, but it's one of them where you don't want to believe him, because if you do believe it and then it's wrong,
you're so gutted.
Yeah,
I understand what
where
you mean.
we'll get back onto the golden reel, where that was, I've had the other end of that.
Yeah,
but it was just mad, and it turned out in the end they'd done all the weighing in, and it got to Lee Thornton. I think Lee was winning it. I think he had about 30 odd kilo, something like that. It was quite low. Like, all the people who'd caught early just hadn't really caught the rest of the match. So I think Lee had like something like 30, 35 kilo. Frankie then went in the lead. I think Frankie had 39 kilo.
And what did you think at that point? Still no recollection of what you'd got?
I didn't really want to know. And to be honest, nobody, I know it sounds horrible, no one cared what anyone else had. It was just like the crowd it moved from Frankie to me, and it was just like everyone was there. You've got people like some of the like competitors. I remember Perry being next to me. All my family and that are there. Robbie's there. He's like, "You've got this." And I think I had my fish like spread out into 3 nets, and I needed something like 11 pound in my last net. And Robbie was like, "It's like 4 carp in there." He's like, "This is yours." And I weighed 48 kilos something.
Wow.
So you'd done it. You've proper done it.
The last, it turned out I'd probably 2, maybe 3 fish ahead. Like, what's that? 6 to 8 kilos, but nearly 20 pound in it. So yeah, it was 2 would have been close. 3 would have tipped it Frankie's way.
Can you tell me how you felt when you tipped them final 4 fish on and it went round to above second place's weight? What was your feeling? Can you remember it?
Do you know what? I remember. I don't even think. From what I remember, I pulled the net out. Robbie poured them in, and I didn't even look. Didn't look at the scale.
Yeah.
Didn't even look at the scales. And I just remember, or didn't know what the weight was. Everyone just cheered. There was no what weight you had or anything. By the end of the match, I didn't even know what weight I had.
You know that you'd won.
I just knew. I remember. Like, Perry's a big man. I remember him slapping me on the back, like, yes! And like everyone just cheered. My missus burst out into tears.
Wow. Oh, mate.
And it just didn't know it was...
Good time to put that up.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's Bobby Taylor. So that's your bank runner, Robbie Taylor, stood next to him here, folks. Pete's there in his Maver Match This Grand Final bib with the trophy.
After just jumping in the lake.
Awesome. And when did it kick in? What happened after that?
Oh, we went out and got absolutely hammered. Of course we did. So we'd booked an extra night. At the end of the day, I was treating it as it was like obviously a final. You had your hotel paid for before. I was treating it as a little getaway. So we booked another night. Robbie had stayed up there. Zach and that was staying up there. My old man and that weren't staying up. So we were at the Stourport Manor or whatever it is. So I said, "Come on, let's all go back to the hotel. We'll all have a drink and that." I said, "I'll see if I can get you a room." Turns out, don't get me wrong, we couldn't get a room for my old man and all that. So they stayed with us to about 10:30. They all drove back. And then there was like my mate Ferdy and his missus. Like my missus, Zach.
These all come to support you?
Oh, yeah, it all come to support us. And there was a few others that were with us, like Jason Collins and that. We were all there, and we literally just went out and got absolutely hammered.
Epic.
Absolutely hammered. Don't like, you were just walking around different places in Kidderminster or wherever we were, like trying to find places. We just didn't want it to end.
Amazing, mate. Absolutely amazing. That's a feeling or a moment that I think so many match anglers would love to experience. Can't think. I do remember my missus, like my mate's missus, Sarah, bless her. She at the end of the match, like everyone's cheering and that. Considering she's come and watched, don't have a clue about fishing. My mate fishes, but she doesn't know. She's just randomly said, "Well, what's he won then?"
What's he won?
She didn't have a clue.
Didn't have a clue. So there's been banners everywhere.
Wow.
Did not have a clue. She's like, "Well, what's he won then?" She's like, 65 grand.
Unheard of. What's the obvious thing to ask you next is, what did you do with the money, or how did it change your life? Because that's the second biggest amount that's ever been won in the history of match fishing.
Yeah. To be fair, we were in a flat at the time. Like it was my missus' flat when she had it before I met her. So it was time to move, I guess. We had a little dog. So we had a little dog that we'd got, and it was just, we'd outgrown it basically. It was like a little 2-bedroom flat in Sutton. It was a lovely little place, but we wanted somewhere bigger. So we looked to obviously getting a bigger mortgage and a bigger house.
And that's what a lot of the money went on.
Yeah, to be fair, it was quite lucky because my missus had quite a lot of money in her flat, so we could get a fair amount of mortgage. And what that gave us, when we moved in, I took 3 months off. Well, I say took 3 months off work. I actually quit my job where I was working. Like, I was only a subcontractor for a building firm. But I quit my job and I took 3 months off to build or to redesign my house, basically. Knock walls down, put walls up. Done a total refurb.
Fantastic.
Total refurb. Built like an annex at the bottom of the garden where my missus, mum and dad...
That's what you mentioned before, yeah.
Yeah. So built that at the bottom of the garden. And that was that. But I was privileged enough to have that money behind us to be able to do that.
Just shows, though, from fishing what that money's helped with and supported you with. Like, it's enabled you to do quite a lot by the sounds of it, mate.
Massively. And from that, like, my missus supports me in everything that I do. She's brilliant, to be fair. She's like, from there, she's like, well, why go and work for somebody else? Like, she said, why don't you go out on your own? So I remember my old neighbour at the time and like good mate Glenn. I've been like, I've lived next door to him since I was like 1 and he was 3. And I remember having a chat with him and we had to sit down. It was like, well, let's put your bit of work together, my bit of work together, and let's see how we get on. And that was, well, it's 4 years ago now. So we're still busy.
So you're working for yourself now?
Oh,
you
yeah,
created your own business with Glenn?
Exactly that. Me and him, we can barely write our names. So, but work-wise and that, my missus does all the paperwork for us, does all quotations, because she wants us to succeed.
And how's it going?
Oh, brilliant. Like I say, we're busier than ever, to be fair. And it's just getting stronger and stronger.
Amazing,
I'd
mate.
put that up there. Nice picture of the two of you.
Awesome. I actually met your missus. I met her twice. I met her on Golden Reel and I met her on the Guru quizzes. We were doing some quizzes over lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, I think it was Friday nights. We'd take it in turns to run, like, a video quiz.
Mate, I love a good quiz.
And I met Nikki on that again.
Oh, Matt's one was crazy. He made you running around the house and everything.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, you had to get, like, bras on your head.
Yeah.
And
Find something interesting out your missus's top drawer. That's what it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, quality that.
What's with running your own business, Pete? I know a lot of anglers and a lot of people in our sport, they have their own business or they might be thinking about going and running their own business. Is it difficult? Is it stressful? What lifestyle? Do you have to change your lifestyle to do that?
Don't get me wrong, the first year, like, don't get me wrong, we had work and that coming through and that, but it's good. But there's obviously the downsides in that. Like when some people are going home at 4 o'clock and they're going home, that's it. I've got to go home. I've got to quote, like, price up a job or put in an invoice. And like I say, me and Glenn, between us, we're terrible at that. And fortunately, my missus pushes us to get bits done and sorts that out for us. But it is time consuming. Like you say, when you're finishing work at 4 o'clock, you might be driving half hour to go and have a look at another job that you might never be getting. They might be just using you as a price. There's a lot to be said working for a company, but then I wouldn't want to work for a company again at the same time, if that makes sense.
Now you're your own boss.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'd probably work harder than I've ever worked, if I'm honest. Wanting the best life, providing for the family.
When, obviously, moving into your proper house, you built an annex, you started your own business, all that is a backlash of winning the money in the fishing
without
competition.
a doubt, because without a doubt, I still had, like, some money. We'd obviously saved money, the pair of us, so we didn't plough all of that into the house. We had enough money to be able to do the house and do what we wanted to do, and I still had a little bit of money behind me to be able to have that freedom to try and, like, go out on my own. At the end of the day, I didn't know if it was going to work. We had about a month or 2 months work in front of us. And even to this day, sometimes we've had it before where we're like, oh, what are we doing Monday? And then all of a sudden, I don't know how it does, but it just seems to flow and work, and we've had constant work and still getting work all the time, basically.
Brilliant, mate. Great to hear. I've got to ask, when you've had the high of winning a competition like the Match This Final, did that affect your fishing immediately after it? What did your fishing involve straight after that?
Do you know what? If anything, I didn't. The next year, I barely went for a qualifier in the Maver. I know some people, you get that, the hunger of like wanting to get back in the final and things like that. Almost, I don't know, not, oh yeah, I've completed it. Do you know what I mean? But it took a bit of a back burner because it was coinciding with doing the house. And I just wanted to enjoy my fishing. And ultimately, that's what you should be there for. If you're in it for the money and trying to chase them big matches, don't get me wrong, I'm lucky to be the right end of one and won one. But if it was all about that money of that match, I don't think I'd bother, to be fair.
And you've mentioned family. Obviously, you're not just talking about yourself and Nikki.
No.
There's 3 of you now.
4, including the dog.
4, including the dog.
Don't forget my
What's
dog.
What's the dog called?
Lenny. Oh.
Right. So, how old's the young one then?
He is coming up for a year.
Wow.
On the 3rd of April.
And has that affected your fishing? Because that's quite a lot to take on from what you had before. So, you when you won this big money match, there's no kids involved?
No
in
kids.
Totally different house.
Don't get me wrong, we was trying.
There you go, check that out.
Oh, there he
is this George?
Just my big man, yeah.
Flipping heck.
Great picture, isn't it?
Awesome shot. Love it.
All paint and that all over my face.
I love how you both got the same smile as well, isn't you?
Yeah, you can, there's no doubting whose that is.
Yeah,
do you know
That's
what?
it.
I get that all the time. Like, he's a proper little mini me. Look, he's even got the man boobs.
He's gorgeous, mate. Brilliant. Love that picture.
But yeah, like I say, obviously we were trying for a child. Had a bit of heartache, lost one.
Wow.
Along the way.
I didn't know that, mate.
No, to be honest, a lot of people didn't, Matt. I've not. Don't get me wrong, although I'm loud and like to chat to everyone, I can be quite private at the same time.
Right.
But yeah, it's not something that a lot of people knew.
But it is something that quite a lot of people probably go through.
Oh, without a doubt. It was. We wanted it so bad that when we thought it was happening, it was obviously not. There was no viable heartbeat, and that was that sort of thing.
How did that affect you, Pete? How did it feel?
To be fair, obviously trying to get through it and what's not. It was more that I don't know if we see it as an end. I think there's a stage where you think, well, this is never going to happen. We're not that lucky. You see other people walking around with three, 4 kids. I remember my missus saying, all I see is pregnant people. And until you're in that situation where you're trying to like get pregnant, you don't even notice pregnant ladies and that. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's just, yeah, it was not nice.
No, I can imagine, mate. I can imagine.
Not nice.
You've got there. You've got George.
We've got there, and don't get me wrong, even like, obviously we were so scared that once we become pregnant again, we were having a scan every 2 weeks.
Make sure everything's all right.
Literally every 2 weeks. We were like, every other week, it's like, scan? Yeah, shall we? Yeah, go on then. And it was, yeah, brilliant.
Sounds like you really enjoyed that part of it.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Obviously, my missus got 2 other children from previous relationships, so she had experience of that, and that's what she'd always wanted for me. Don't get me wrong, obviously wanted it for myself as well, but absolutely amazing, to be fair, and strange times. He was born in lockdown.
I was just going to ask you the timing of that. If George is coming up to 1, we're coming up to when we first got locked down. What was it like having a newborn baby going into a national lockdown?
Do you know what the worst thing was? So I was quite fortunate. I come into the last scan and I was allowed in, and that was the last one. And then because they kept saying he was going to be a big baby, they booked her in for like to induce her, and then if need be a C-section. And I remember at the time we got a call, right, bring her down. I had to drop her off and then I had to leave. They said, when it starts happening, we'll call you back up. So I'm gone home.
God, that's a nervous wait that round.
So I've gone home, like obviously speaking to my missus and that throughout the day. And then eventually I got a call about 5, 6 o'clock. They're like, all right, you can come up now. So she had, because she had her own room. So I was in their own room and nothing happened. We were there. And in the end, she gave birth the next morning. So it was 12:53 the next morning.
Wow.
little £7.10, I think he was.
Nice.
Nice.
Wouldn't mind that
Yeah.
last drop in, would you, Dan? Edge?
Yeah, last knockings.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then literally she gave birth. We then moved to a different room. I was with them for half an hour. That's it. I had to go. So I was told that I couldn't stay. I had to leave.
Wow.
It's quite brutal, that, isn't it? First ever try, especially having had the experience that you've both had.
Yeah.
And that's your special moment when
Yeah,
you're
of
having the
course.
child,
Yeah.
and not to experience it
So-
fully. That must have been difficult.
So yeah, literally I left after that. She was then in hospital for a day, so I never got to see him. The next day, I obviously went to pick him up when they were released, and probably the scariest time of my life happened next. Was my missus actually had an infection.
Oh.
So what happened is she got taken back to hospital.
What, immediately?
We had to take her back to hospital. So she'd been at home a day, maybe 2 days.
Oh, no, mate.
So she's had an infection. We had to take her back to hospital. They wanted to keep her in. So I've now got a newborn baby at home.
Mate.
First child. I didn't know what to do. So I think she was in there for about 3 days. And I've got George. I'm doing the night feeds. I'm up, down, changing.
Wow.
Fair play, legend.
Again, proper chucked in at the deep end. And I remember going to see the health visitor. I had to take him back to the hospital to see the health visitor. And my missus was like, thing, blah, blah, blah. So I made sure I dressed him all smart and everything like that. And I remember speaking to the health visitor. She was like, I've been speaking to Nikki and blah, blah, blah and all this. And I've put George down. She said, right, undress him. And I was like, what? I said, are you going to help me dress him again? She was like, why? I said, it's taking me about half an hour to do that. And I just didn't know what to do.
You've never done it before?
No. And then
Wow.
when my missus come home, I used to carry him around the house. And I used to just chuck him on my shoulder like a bag of plaster. And it was just the easiest way. Just used to have him on my shoulder and just walk around the house with him.
Imagine you making like a cup of tea with him on the arm like that.
And honestly, I remember my missus she was like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, that's how I carry him. She was like, you can't carry him like that. I'm like, oh, he's doing all right.
Oh,
But yeah,
my.
no, yeah, he's borderline walking now.
Fantastic.
He's
So
crawling
you've got
all
to
over-
hide everything on the top shelves and
Oh
that.
my
have
God,
you?
that's-
What
put-
were Nikki thinking? So she
she
obviously knows you and what you're like, and her newborn baby is in the house with you.
I think she was quietly confident, but she was just devastated. It was probably, well, I can't speak for her, but it's got to be one of the worst things of her life. At the end of the day, it was like
It's an
bonding
important time for them to be
bonding time,
together.
Yeah, I remember obviously speaking to her. I used to speak to her loads, as you do, and it was just, there's nothing you can do, or I couldn't even take him in to see her or anything.
Right. And did she recover from the infection?
Oh yeah,
okay?
yeah, good as gold. And then it's all a distant memory now. Do you know what I mean? It's, it is for me, maybe not her. But
Amazing story though. Thank you for sharing that with
That's
us,
all
mate.
right.
Because obviously a lot of people listening and everything's super positive, and they think that other people don't go through these kind of things. So it were nice to hear it. that
yeah,
one. Thank
like
you,
I
mate.
say, he's noisy.
Is it?
wouldn't
When
it-
we having him on the bank?
Oh my God! We took him down the Wandle the other week. When,
Right.
we had a little trot down there with my old man, like my mum and dad. There's a picture. I should have actually given it to Tobes, to be fair. I've got one with him, like got a little trout in front of his face.
High quality. What was that like?
To be fair, he just loves being outside.
Wow.
He's brilliant. To be fair, he doesn't really cry. He sleeps 12 hours of a night.
Legend.
And he's just, if you put him outside, no matter what's happening, put him outside or in the bath, he's good as gold.
Superb.
Yeah.
Sounds like an absolute gold baby.
Yeah, he's-
What has it affected your fishing, Pete? Have you changed anything? Do you go more or less now you've got George and family?
Don't get me wrong, towards like building up to that, I'd probably called off a bit anyway. That if I was doing a qualifier, I would only go once of a weekend. If I'm more local, then yeah, sometimes I go twice. I do love a 2-dayer or a 3-day festival. They're good fun. But But I would generally only go 2 days if it was something that interested me rather than the sake of going fishing.
Do you ever get put under any pressure from Nikki, your missus, about going fishing?
No, she's absolutely... At the end of the day, what she's always said is, you done that when I met you, so why change you? I think she likes to get rid of me, to be fair.
Yeah.
I know for a fact I can be annoying. And everything we do in life, I'm like, when I'm ready, that's it, let's go.
Got you.
We wake up like what, you wake up and I'll be like, should we go for a walk? She's like, all right, when do you want to go? I was like, well, I don't know, 10 minutes. and that's, she's good as gold. She's quite patient with me.
Sound like a perfect match to me, mate.
Yeah, chew her ear off.
Fantastic. I noticed the picture of you and Nikki that Toby put up earlier. That weren't taken in this country, was it?
No.
Looked
it was
like
on the Wandle.
Looked like Thailand to me.
It is Thailand.
How many times have you been there? Talk to me about Thailand.
I've been probably about 7 or 8 times now.
Wow.
Me and Nikki, we've been twice together, and I'm actually going next April. I'm running a little festival out there.
Fishing?
Yeah. I'm running a
What?
exotic fishing park.
How do I get booked on?
I was going to say, where's our tickets?
Do you know what, Matt? I'll probably fit you on. There's
Honestly?
Honestly, there's 12 of us. I'll send you over the details.
Mate, I'd love to go.
There's 12 of us, and I literally, so it's my mum and dad are going, and then all the people I fish with, some of them bringing partners, some of them aren't. We've got 7 days, we're out there for 7 nights, and we're fishing a 5-day festival.
How the hell are you going to do that? This is mental.
What it is, we're going to be done on, the fish will be just measured rather than weighed, because some of these fish, you're talking thousands of pounds.
Won't go down well putting them in a keep
No.
net, would it? I wouldn't want to be the one man weighing in either.
No, but we're just going to going for a jolly up. It says a lot about missus. How many people can go to Thailand and take the missus fishing for a week?
Unreal.
Done well
And then
there.
don't get wrong. Then we're obviously gonna carry it on and have a family holiday after that sort of thing.
Hey, I'm dying to ask you about this picture as well, because I think this is a wicked picture.
What is that? Folks, flipping heck, I thought that was Nikki then. It's not. It's Pete laid on the floor, right, in his Just Do It Nike top, tattoos everywhere, with a monkey between his legs, and one looks like it's holding him up from behind.
Couple of good-looking ones, them. Thailand. Anything you want out in Thailand, like it's accessible. The zoos and that are absolutely incredible. Like, could you imagine going to London Zoo and like
Just
laying on the
chilling
floor?
with the monkeys? Yeah.
No.
We've got ones. I've got like chimpanzees. Like you've got like pictures with crocodiles. Like also anything like feeding the tiger cubs and that. Some of the experiences you can have out there are absolutely incredible.
And it's all pretty safe and well organised.
They can't do enough for you. The people can't do enough for you out there. The rivers and that, like what you've got at like the temples where the monks and that are, they're like a sacred place. You can't fish in that. They sell you like a bag of old bread. Chuck it out there, you get millions and millions of catfish fighting over it. It's absolutely rife.
Crazy.
It is a mental place, and I absolutely love it. Like I say,
You've been with Nikki a couple of times. When did you first go, and what sort of holidays did you go on to start with out there?
Yeah, we used to go with the boys.
Proper lads holidays.
Yeah, used to go to we always used to coincide it. Even some of my mates that I've been with never been fishing. I've caught mates. I've caught mates. I've got mates that have their first fish are like £100 Mekongs.
That's not bad going, is it?
Oh my god, and things like that. It's absolutely crazy. But yeah, boys' holidays, and it's just beautiful. Everywhere you go in Thailand is different. So you'll go to, say, an island like Koh Tao, and then you'll move on to PP, which is like a party island. You move somewhere else. They've all got a different vibe. And it's a magical place. Been to like Gillam's. And
what's the craziest thing you've ever done in Thailand?
Oh, Jesus.
That you're allowed to talk about on the podcast.
Podcast sake.
My God.
Well, I bumped into a girl once and she shouted "shabber" a few times.
God, I think you've got me there, Matt. There's so many different memories and things from Thailand in regards to fishing. I remember the first time we went to Gillam's fishing, and there's a video kicking around on Facebook somewhere, and we'd booked it like yonks in advance, like you have to with Gillam's, and we had all good intentions. Get there, we'll get to Krabi, and we'll have a chill out. We're getting picked up at like 6 o'clock in the morning the next day. We'll have a chill out. And Thailand, it doesn't happen like that. We've got absolutely rotten, like you would not believe. We've had the taxi pick us up, and all we wanted to do, the moment we got to the fishery, I remember my mate filming. He's like showing all Gillam's off. He's turned the phone round to him. He's gone, we've waited all year for this. He looked absolutely rotten, and me and my other mate were just flat out on the bank, like not even interested. You get into a place like Gillam's, you're like, oh my God, I want to die.
That was when hangovers were kicking in a bit.
You're starting to.
Right. And what about the fishing? What would you say is your number one fishing moment in Thailand? My first target was to catch a Siamese carp. And I think the first 3 years I went, never caught a Siamese carp. I wanted a Siamese or an arapaima, never caught either. We were catching like loads of Mekongs at Bang Sum Run, and just catching like some crazy looking fish like pacu and like albino pacu, and that was my ultimate target. Then it was a trip to Gillam's. I think I caught about 12 carp in like 3 days. All Siamese?
All Siamese.
That's a Siamese carp.
That's a Siamese, yeah.
How big's that, Pete?
I think it's about 80 odd pound, that one, from what I remember.
The size of that thing.
Ridiculous.
They're mental, aren't they?
Crazy fish. And that was my target, what I wanted to catch. In the end of it, I was like, I'm sick of them now. And I think it was the next year that I went out there. After I caught the Siamese, I went with Nikki. Like, obviously, I was with Nikki then. I didn't obviously know her before. I was with Nikki. Met my mum and dad out there as well, and we had a day's fishing. And she's caught all sorts as well. She caught Siamese carp, alligator gar, you name it.
And she's all right pulling them in because they're big, powerful fish.
The alligator gar, because they've got like the scales. If you rub them the wrong way, they're like really sharp. So it looks like she's like been self-harming on one picture where this fish has cut her up.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she's holding it up. But my next target was an arapaima, and we'd gone to Exotic Fishing Park, met my mum and dad there as well, and it was a slow day. We'd caught like 3 fish between us, and towards the end of the day, I literally had all my bait, chucked everything in that I had, and I'd caught like a little tilapia on a whip. That he'd give us a little whip, caught a little tilapia. I put a live bait on, and it must have been 10 minutes before the fishing's up, because when it goes dark there, you're not allowed to night fish in Thailand, and it literally, the light just goes like that. So it must have been 10 minutes before we had to give up fishing, and bam, I hooked an arapaima. Like, waited so long, pulled like anything, not the best of pictures, but it was like
That's a massive fish.
Oh, absolute beast. It was about 170 pound, if I remember.
No.
Wow. And what was the fight like?
Oh, crazy. Like, I remember hooking it, and you've got a guide or a ghillie, whatever you want to call them out there in Thailand, that look after a couple of you or whatever. And I remember the moment I hooked it, he was like, arapaima.
We knew straight away.
Knew straight away.
Wow.
Knew straight away. And like, they jump out and all sorts.
Crazy.
It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was a long, like some of them Mekongs, I've played Mekongs out there for like 2-3 hours. I remember my mate once, it was his first ever fish. He caught 160 pound Mekong, and he got broke about 5 times, and the guide was jumping in, getting his line because when it was snapping, it was pigtailing on the water, and the line was sitting there on the surface.
Never.
Like, they're using bright lights. He's jumping in, diving in, tying the line back together.
No.
Yeah.
How can you even do that?
Oh, and even at Bang Sam Ran, you used to fish on a platform, and all they wanted to do was go underneath this platform. And he'd be there like that. Next thing you know, like, gets broken by it. It's just a crazy, crazy place.
I'd love to go. Would you recommend it?
Oh, honestly, my missus, the first time we went there, we stopped in Bangkok. So you've got to experience Bangkok, like Koh Sam Road and that. And we went there, and certain places are quite seedy. And I remember my missus turned around and she said, I don't see the attraction. She said, I don't like it. She said, this is disgusting. She said, I don't like it. And I was like, oh, Jesus, this isn't what I was expecting. We'd gone with like 2 of our mates. I was like, oh, this isn't what I was expecting. And then the next day we moved off somewhere else. I think we moved off to Koh Tao, and it was just like a totally different vibe. And she was like, oh my God, this is amazing. She said,
Were you like, thank God for that?
and she said, it's absolutely amazing. And what we always do in Thailand, we try to do like a couple of days here, 3 or 4 days here, pick your bags up, just move somewhere else. And you just go to different places. And like I say, everywhere you go is completely different. The people, you've got some real rich parts, and then you've got some real poor parts, like unbelievably poor. Like on the beach and that, you'll be on the beach and you get like kids, so school kids, like they're out at night and they're playing you like Connect 4 for like, it's like 100 baht, so it's like £2, and they're playing you like Connect 4, and they're selling like little flower necklaces. Wow. You get random people coming around with like birds of prey, snakes and that, and like slow lorises having photos with you. Wow. You've got all like fire shows going on, but you everywhere you go is just different.
Right. And is it accessible and a sensible price for people to go, Pete?
Once you've got this, some people I know, like the first time we went out there, we made a mistake, like you do. We booked everything up for a travel agent. We said, "Oh yeah, we want to do this, want to do that," and we ended up in Pattaya, and like me and my mates were like, "We can't do this, too full on." It's like it was just full of old men.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I can't do this. We need to go somewhere else. We booked an internal flight, which are so easy to get. You can get an internal flight, 30 quid. Just jump on a plane, move somewhere different. And there's different bits, and it's just brilliant. The only thing is, the flights out there are what's expensive. You're probably looking for a direct flight between £700 and £1,000.
Right.
After that, you can make it as cheap or as expensive as you want it to. You can eat the street food, which the street food is absolutely beautiful. Like a little Thai lady or Thai man coming along in their little cart with a wok, and you tell them what you want, like noodle wise and different spices and that. It costs you like £1.
Yeah, mate. My best mate's been out there. He said the street food is incredible.
Love to go.
He'd go out there and he'd get breakfast off a street cart.
Yeah, it is the street. Yeah. You'd look at them. If it was over here, they'd be out of business. They'd never get into business. But you'd look at them and you think, oh my God, I'm not eating that. You'll eat the food and you're like, wow, that is unbelievable. But alternatively, if you go to a restaurant and a 3-course meal, couple of beers, cost you 10, 15 quid.
Wow.
And it's and to be fair, the food is not dissimilar to the food, like the carts out the front, but it depends what you want to do. Don't get me wrong, I've gone for sit downs and everything and done bits. We've stayed at that the La Bula Hotel in Bangkok, where the Hangover was filmed.
Wow.
And don't get me wrong, we've not eaten there. It's about £300 for a 3 or 5 course meal at this place, but you get millions of people go up onto that bit where the Hangover was, and you go and have a drink. It's like it looks over the whole of Bangkok. You can see all the river. Wow. It's crazy place. Mental. Absolutely fantastic.
And has it affected your fishing back home? Do you do anything different back here because of Thailand? Or
do you know what? If anything, it almost takes you back. Thailand almost takes you back because you're not taking your own gear out there a lot of the time. You might take odd little bits here and there. If anything, it's quite crude. The feeders are like a spring method feeder. In a roundabout way, it's the same concept. You're fishing like you fish like a method ball with a float on. So like a bit like what would it be? A bagging waggler, isn't it? Yeah. So you're fishing like a bagging waggler out there. And you'll be firing bait out. And they top over each other, and I think if you could like refined gear out there, or work out how to think, you'd catch ridiculous amounts.
Sounds awesome. I want to go. I'm going to get booked on your festival, mate.
Yeah, do it, mate.
I'd love to.
There's a good bunch of blokes going.
Before we move on, I've got one capture from Thailand I've been dying to show as well.
Go on, let's have a look, Tobe.
Look at that.
That stingray.
Stingray, look, he's even got his balls out.
No. How big's that,
mental is
Pete?
that?
To be fair, that's only little. That's probably about 30 odd pound, I should imagine.
Massive.
Oh, look at the size of it.
Can't even see you behind it.
Pete, how big do they get if that's little?
Oh, ridiculous! It's like £600-700, I think.
Mate,
I've even got a picture, Matt, with the legend John Wilson.
What, out there?
Yeah, look.
Let's have
Yeah,
a
I've
look,
got that,
Tobe.
yeah,
Get
get
that. What, did you meet him in Thailand?
Yeah. He used to. That's a fishery called Palm Tree Lagoon,
Right.
which John was. You'd have seen it from videos that he's done. Bless him, when he was still alive, and he was there
What
one
were
day.
it like meeting him?
To be fair, he was just good as gold, really. He just come over. I remember he was fishing on the main swim at the front of the lodge bit. I was round the
There it is.
corner, and
Wow, what a picture, Pete.
yeah, my old gut hanging out.
Not many people have got a picture like that, Tobe.
No, literally, I remember him catching a Mekong, and he come over. He said, would you like a picture and that like thing? I was like, yeah, let's jump in.
What a guy.
And then later, when he caught one, I asked him if he'd like a photo with me.
Brilliant.
great picture that.
That's awesome,
Yeah.
Pete. That's shot. I didn't know that were coming. That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Fantastic. So Thailand, fishing in UK, similar but just on a Jurassic scale.
Yeah, I think if anything, it is very similar, but a bit more cruder.
Right. Awesome. I don't want to backtrack too much, but getting back onto match fishing, we've talked about your biggest achievement, winning the Maver Match This Final, 65 grand. I know a couple of years ago you had not that kind of luck. In fact, quite the opposite. Tell us about that experience. What competition was that in?
That was the Golden Reel.
The final?
The final.
£50,000?
Yeah, I've had basically the opposite match to the Maver. I've drawn MPEG. Again, the end supposedly no one wanted. Again, the wind turned the night before and was blowing down my end. Turned up, loads of fish everywhere, in like mine and Jamie Hughes' swim. And that match still haunts me to this day. I can still see everything that went right in the Maver was almost wrong in this one. I started the match, I remember, on a top 5. First drop, caught one. Second drop, caught one. I think then I got broke by one. I've moved lines, caught some more. I've probably got £100 after 3 hours. I was probably £40 ahead of Jamie. And to be honest, it was a 2-horse race from the offset.
You and Jamie Hughes.
Yeah, so it was probably it was. I think the next weight on the day was like 60 or 70 pounds. The fish were just all down our end, so that was that. And then Jamie, I remember, caught the first fish in the edge. So I'm thinking, right, this is game on now. Let's have a go again.
Yeah.
Fed some bait, caught one first drop, and we literally were fish for fish. I think I was ahead the whole match until the last drop. And
Last drop.
I've had fish come off for no reason. I've had, like, obviously not hooking them in the mouth properly. I've probably lost 6 or 7 fish throughout the day.
And like you mentioned earlier in the Maver that you won, you got a few in that were hooked around the mouth.
Yeah, and I remember it was on Tom Scully's like feed, and about 5 minutes from the end, I was playing a fish, not even really fighting. I've got it back to a top kit, and his head's just popped straight up. And my hook come out. I don't know where it was hooked or anything. My hook just come out. I've lunged for the fish, obviously missed it, and I still see that fish's head now. And after that, Jamie hooked one literally 2 minutes from the end, played it onto the whistle, and he beat me by, it was nothing, about £5, I think it was.
So that fish made the difference at the end.
It was, yeah, no, they're all the fish you catch in Larford in the edge, they're 9-10 pounders. He beat me with that last fish in the last minute, and I genuinely believe I was winning that match from start to finish until probably 2 minutes from the end.
And how did it feel when you knew it were that close and there were that amount of money and
do you know what?
it was final on the line?
I've got that end of the spectrum where Robbie's going, I don't know. I honestly don't know. And he's like, I think Jamie's pipped you. And I've then got my old man and other people going, that's yours. You've won this. You've won this. You've got Jamie's, like a few people behind Jamie and like Jamie's mates and that going, I wouldn't like to call it. And I remember Robbie going over speaking to Jamie, and Jamie actually turned around and said, like, does Pete want to have $5,000 with me?
And this is after the match?
Yeah, after the match.
Never.
After the match. He said, does Pete want to have $5,000 with me? He
So
said,
you've not weighed in, you finished the match, you both know it's close.
yeah.
And he says, do you want to share $5,000? Whoever wins.
He said, yeah. He said, I'm not being funny. He said, $3,000 for second. He said, $8,000, like, it's worth something. Which, yeah. Of course, I didn't turn it down.
No.
I think deep down I knew I wasn't going to beat him. And then I can't remember what weight I needed. I think I needed 17 pound in my last net, and it was just my silvers. And I'd caught a couple of F1s and a few skimmers, and it went 11 pound. So obviously Jamie beat me.
Wow.
And to this day, I still think about losing that last fish. Obviously, I lost other ones throughout, and I don't feel like I fished a bad match. I fished short all match. I didn't like. I caught. I was catching real steady, but I just on that day I didn't have it right in the edge.
Did you use mush?
I did
The
use
renowned
mush,
Meat
yeah.
Mush?
And the thing is, towards the end, because I like feeding ground bait with it as well at times, and it just got away from myself in the end because Jamie was doing what Jamie does, just plods along, just doing what he does, and he got me. And I even remember him. I remember saying to Jamie with about half hour to go, I was like, "Come on, Jamie," I said, "Have a day off." And like, I just had a little laugh, like, and I just got. I looking back, I've chased it, probably overfeeding it, trying to almost relive what happened in the Maver, where I should have been trying to just fish for what I was fishing for. I'm thinking I've got to catch one to my right, I've got to catch one to my left, and it just didn't happen. I don't think in the end, Jamie's caught a fair few fish towards me. And I think I had one towards him. And yeah, that was the difference basically.
I suppose you can't get it bang on every time in that profile of matches, mate.
No, the thing is, there's certain matches. I'm not being funny. You make a mistake when you're around people of his class, you're going to get punished, and I did.
yeah.
And that is the thing. And alternatively, you do it to other people. I'm not saying that if someone else was sat on his peg that they wouldn't have had the same thing, but I could have done with anyone else bar him there.
Yeah, you needed Jamie Hughes out of the way, didn't
yes.
you? You neaded him out of the way.
Yeah. Fair play to him. He does, like say, at the end of the day, he's dedicated his life to what he does.
And he must have thought that you'd beat him to have the sharing deal.
Without a doubt. Like I say, I think it's like that, like I said earlier with the Maver, it's you want to believe you've won, but you don't want to at the same time. And I'm sure Jamie was probably in that situation himself. He probably thought, well, do you know what? I probably there's a good chance I probably have won this, but what happens if I haven't? And
$5,000's a lot of money in it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
It's a lot of money if you're going to not win
and
60 grand.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's obviously we'd found out that Nikki was pregnant at that time when it was. So it was like,
right.
I'm not going to turn it down.
Flipping heck, it's highs and lows, isn't it? In this one.
That was literally. I remember Robbie saying, he said, I've not watched anything on that match. Because you know what it's like. We all like to watch the highlights and watch different things. He said, I can't bring myself to watch it.
Feels sick.
Yeah, I did. There's certain times I'm like, oh my God, what happens if I've done this or what happens if I've done that? And we all go to even silly things like going to that River Wandle where I've been going. We're trying to catch the carp there, and I think I've blanked about the last 3 or 4 times now. I go to bed thinking, oh my God, I've got to catch that one. And you relive different things in your mind and what you could have done different, and your brain's ticking over, thinking, right, if I try this next time and that. But when it's such big stakes, well.
Do you think if you could fish that match again, you'd beat Jamie?
There's certain things I do different, but it is what it is. Can't change it. So as much as I think about it, I don't dwell on it. I constantly think about it at times.
Right.
I remember, I think about the week after that match, I could barely sleep. I was just reliving the moment. Even my missus still says now, she says she see the fish's head that popped up.
Oh, no.
Sickening.
It was, I like I say, I remember it clear as day that Tom on his thing was like, oh my God, what's happened there? And I lunged for this fish just in hope that I could have had a stab at him, that I might be able to get him in the net.
It's, I suppose, though, putting a positive spin on it, it must be easier coming second in one, having already won a big final. Can you imagine if you'd not won one
without
and
a shadow
you'd come
of a doubt?
second?
Without a shadow of a doubt. At the end of the day, like I say, the hardest thing is to get into one. I've been lucky enough. Okay, I've only been in two finals. I've had a first and a second.
Not a bad record.
Yeah.
Says a lot about that meat mush we spoke about at
Doesn't
the
it
start,
just?
Toby, doesn't it? I want to ask you, like, you know, how much of it's down to fate and how much of it's down to luck and stuff. But I feel like I should ask you about another story before that question comes up. And this is the accident you had in your van.
Yeah.
And I remember it because Bobby told us, because you were on the phone to Robbie Taylor
Yeah.
at the time you had an accident. Now, tell us a little bit about that.
It was, I remember waking up, it was the Christmas match at Orchard Farm. So quite a few of us booked on. So a lot of the time, Orchard Farm's like, it's a closed shop. A lot of people run leagues and that there. So there was someone running an open match as a Christmas match. So you get a few other people different that booked on. I remember leaving my house. It would have been about 5:30. I'm always early for everything. Never late. Don't like being late. Don't like it when people are late on me. So I wouldn't want it the other way round. And I remember leaving my house, absolutely hammering down, windy as you like, and I was probably driving too fast. Well, no, I was driving too fast. So all around the back where I live is all lanes before you can get onto a dual carriageway. So I'm driving round, and there's a golf course, and there's a split in the road, and I just didn't see the split in the road. And I've clipped this split in the road. I've swerved left and right in the van, like down these lanes, and then I've rolled my van twice.
Rolled
twice.
Rolled twice.
Twice?
And then
Mate.
twice, and then I've hit a tree to stop me from going down. Like there's a bit that goes down into like woods or something like that. I've hit a tree that stopped me from going down.
And can you remember it all?
Clear as day. I was Robbie was on the phone. I was on loudspeaker, and I was just clear as that. I was like, Robbie, I said, I've got to go. I said, I'm going to crash. And
Mate, that's not even funny, that is it? That's like,
Why would you say that?
I said to him, I said, I've got to go.
What, did you see something coming? Or
Oh no,
did you
no,
just
because
feel like...
I'd clipped the embankment. I'd clipped the middle embankment, and I was swerving. So I was swerving left to right, trying to get control of my van. And I said to him, I said, I've got to go. I said, I'm going to crash. Obviously, I didn't think I was going to roll the van, but
Can't believe
imagine what was
it.
going on in Robbie's head. Like,
So-
can you imagine being on the phone to someone?
No.
do you know what? I remember like speaking to Robbie, and he said, "Oh, I thought you were joking." And he obviously the clanging and everything that happened, he was still on the phone.
No.
And he said, Pete, you all right? And I said, I've got to go. I said, I've got to kick my way out. I said, I'm upside down. And he's like,
Man, check that out up there.
That, Pete, that's ridiculous.
I don't know how you walked away from that. That
There's a
is
picture
unreal.
of Pete's van up on screen, folks. On the edge of the road. It is a mangled mess.
see if I can zoom in on
That is ridiculous, Pete. And what were you like? Were you injured? Were
do
you
you
hurt?
know what? So I've kicked my way out.
Did you come out the windscreen?
No.
out?
I did, obviously, I shouldn't have done, but I didn't even have a seatbelt on.
No,
Mate.
Pete.
Never had a seatbelt on.
Good.
And
Do you wear one now?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I was going to say that'd do
Of
it.
course. I remember even the policewoman at the time, because she said to me, she said, "Did you have a seatbelt on?" I said, "No." And she was like, "I can't believe how honest you've just been." But I remember kicking my way out of like my window, and all I could find in my van. I used my iPad as a sat nav, so all I could find in the van was my iPad. I don't know where my phone was. It was absolutely pitch black. I remember cutting out, crawling out into the middle of the road, and waving my iPad. It's a road that doesn't see loads of people. Fortunately, there was somebody coming up it. It must have been like something out of a zombie movie or something, thinking, like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Fortunately, the woman that stopped, it was a taxi, and she just finished a night shift as a nurse.
No.
So I've said to her, like, I said, like, "I'm so sorry." She was like, "Don't be sorry." I said, "Can I borrow your phone?" So I've borrowed her phone. I've rung up the ambulance and like 999, and I said, "Oh, look, I've had an accident." I said, "I don't know who you need to bring out or whatever." But I said, "My van's upside down." And they said, "Are you hurt?" I said, "I've got a bump on my head," and I said, "I think my legs are bleeding." Like, I didn't know or whatever, and thing. They were like, "Right, no worries, we'll send out thing." It turns out that my legs weren't bleeding. After we switched the light on in the interior of the car, it's where I'd crawled out and my legs just got wet on the floor.
Thank God.
But that was that. On my head, I had the tiniest of bumps, like you wouldn't believe. Don't get wrong, I was a bit stiff. But I remember the fire brigade were the first to turn up. So they pulled down and they said, "How's the driver?" I said, "I am the driver." He was like, "What?"
Sorry.
Never.
He was like, "Is there anyone else there?" I said, No. I said, "How can I get my fishing gear out the back?" I said, like, all my tools and everything was in there, and it just, the whole lot was just chucked everywhere. And I remember him saying, "Well, you've got to leave the scene now. Like, the ambulance come and checked me over, the police come." Like,
Did you have to go to hospital or anything, Pete?
no.
That's ridiculous.
No,
When you
Sorry.
see the
when
van,
you look at the
yeah.
picture, that's just ridiculous.
And my next door neighbour, they're actually traffic police, and I remember them coming round. They said, "I've seen your pictures of your crash." Like, they knew my van, 'cause my van was wrapped. I had it wrapped, and they said, "We've seen the pictures." They said, "I've seen so many fatalities on a lesser crash." She said, "I cannot believe it. What's happened," sort of thing. But the strangest thing was, on my iPad, I've somehow, or my phone, whatever it was, my phone has sent an emoji to my missus of an angel.
It's a joke.
It's like shit, and I've rung
That
her.
is weird.
I've rung her.
Gives you shivers, that.
Yeah, that
Oh,
does,
yeah.
mate. Look at me.
It's
Look at
like,
me.
I've rung her off this woman's phone, and she didn't answer. I'm not being funny. It's probably 10 to 6 in the morning now, so she didn't answer. So I've rung again, and she didn't like answer. Like, "Oh, hello, who's this?" She was like, "What's wrong?" And I
How
was
strange.
And I was like, I said, "It's me." She said, "I know it's you." I said, "Don't panic." I said, "But I've had a crash." I said, "I'm all right." And that was that. It was.
Like she knew already,
She knew.
almost.
She was awake. She was awake.
That's weird, mate. I'm going cold.
Yeah, no, I'm free.
I am
Yeah,
going
I am.
cold.
She was awake and had her phone in the hand, and see that I'd sent her an emoji on thing.
But you hadn't sent this emoji.
Oh, I didn't say I'd crashed. I was upside down.
How the hell had it got there
Not
then?
a clue. Not a clue.
Can't be. How can your iPad or phone coincidentally click on the angel? Because I'm not. Don't get me wrong. You don't look like the kind of guy that uses an angel emoji.
No, it's not in your favourites, is
No.
it?
But I honestly, to this, could not tell you. And then, like I say, when she answered the phone, it was like, "What's up?" She knew. I don't know how she knew it was me, because I wasn't calling off my phone. And yeah, that was that.
And everything was all right. You're all right.
My
van.
fishing gear was smashed.
You have to get new gear.
Yeah. My gear, because I had all my tools. I've got some of the tools in that quite heavy. And the worst thing is, because it was so close to Christmas, I couldn't be there. They wouldn't let me. All my doors, the side door and everything, was absolutely mangled. I think Toby's actually got another one of it, all like the side door and everything. I couldn't get into my van. So they've said, "Oh, it's gone back to a yard in Crowthorne."
There you go, Matt.
That's ridiculous.
And they were like, it's they said, we're shutting for Christmas tomorrow or lunchtime. This is the day after I've had my crash. They said, we're shutting for Christmas. I was like, I've got some serious amount of tools and gear, like fishing gear in the back of my van. I said, I need my gear. They went, well, you better get down here before lunchtime. And fortunately, Adrian Marshall, like he's fair play to him. He said to me, look, I've got an old pickup truck here. He said that we use for rubbish case. He said, come and get it. He said, come and get it or I'll drive you down there sort of thing. So quickly, he only lives 10 minutes from me, zipped down there, taken his van, got to the yard, took a Jemmy bar with me, prized open the doors, and it was just chaos.
What did it look like inside?
Oh, my God.
Well, someone's basically got your van and turned it over twice, haven't they? Let's face it.
I had racking in there that had obviously all snapped. The side of that van was where all my racking was, so that's all snapped. I've got big, heavy toolboxes that have rolled in across each other. Bait. I've had, I soaked some pellets, like a big amount of pellets that I'd soaked. It was everywhere.
Oh, no.
Maggots, the whole lot
mate.
was all over the back. It was all smashed up. And literally, I took everything that was salvageable and just left everything that wasn't, basically.
Right. Starting again job, that, innit?
Oh, it was. Don't get me wrong. I'd salvaged like some bits. Obviously, you know what it's like with fishermen. We've got bits that you're never going to use. Well, I say you're never going to use. You've got them at home. You think, well, have I still got that? But you still keep it. And I've managed to get some gear back together. And all I had was a little bump on my head, and my wrist actually got worse for about 3 months. I'd like strain on my wrist. And I had a cortisone injection on that, and it's been fine since.
I think you've been really lucky, Pete. I do, honestly. I think you should definitely wear a seatbelt from now on as well.
That's 100%.
I always do now.
Amazing. So, obviously, I related that question to my previous one about like luck and I don't know, ghosts and fate and that kind of thing. Are you a believer in any of that?
Not really, to be fair.
I think you should be, mate.
I think certain things like them big matches, I think when your name's on it, your name's on it. I do believe that. Sorry. To a point. I think certain things you make your own luck, I think. You get all different people in life that you get the ones that think that they're owed something, and if you live life by that, I think you're going to regret it almost. I think if you want to do something, go out and do it. I've been a great believer in all my life. Well, if I wanted to do something or I wanted something, I either saved up and got it, or I've gone out and done it. Yeah, I've got regrets and thing, but at least I can say I've lived.
I think you can, mate. We've had some absolute belting stories there, Toby.
Mate, honestly, so many, isn't there?
Absolute belters. It were a wild one. When I were doing a little plan for it, I'm like, where's this one going to go, man? But getting towards the end, mate, I like to do a few quick-fire questions, keep it consistent on podcast, so I'm going to fire a few at you now.
Yep.
Top of your head, quick answers back to me from Pete the Meat Upperton. So one item in your seat box that you couldn't live without, what is it?
Plummet.
Plummet? Why?
I think those who know me, I plumb up so many times throughout a match, and the minor details that I think have changed, where they've changed the contours of the bottom.
What the fish do?
Oh, without doubt, I think. Or you've not quite got it right. Sometimes you line up fishing down the edge and things like that. I'll plumb up. I've had matches before where I plumb up every fish, so I know that when I'm setting my trap, it's how I want it set. Yeah, plummet without doubt.
Amazing. That's the intricacy of your fishing, innit? What we talked about at the start. Pretends that he just catches big uns and feeds loads of bait. Actually, massive faffer. One venue that you had to fish for the rest of your life, nowhere else, you could only fish that one. Where would it be?
To be fair, I'd probably just nice and local, probably be Monk Lakes.
Lovely answer.
Monk Lakes. It's got variety of fishing, loads of carp, full of carp. The silverfish fishing there is brilliant. You got Spessy Lakes. Oh no, you said one lake, didn't you?
Yeah. No, I said one venue.
Oh right,
I said one
okay, yeah,
venue.
fair enough.
One
Yeah,
venue.
probably be Monks.
Fair play.
It's been good to me.
Lovely
So-
place. I've been there on features and that a few times. We'll have to go this summer, do a feature with you. Who is the best angler that you have ever fished with?
I think I'd probably say Steve Gardner. Steve Gardner taught us bits throughout Spain, Stub Pond, the early days. Yeah, he's a gentleman. At the end of the day, he'll tell you. And Steve's one of them that if you've caught some fish, he's on you like you wouldn't believe. He wants to know what you've done as well, rather than just he's beat me and it's luck or something like that. And yeah, Steve Gardner.
Awesome. You know what? I've never spent much time fishing with Steve. Met him a few times. Always been a diamond.
He's a lovely bloke.
I'd love to have grown up or spent some time fishing with him.
His attention to detail is unbelievable in regards to when we were going to Spain and we'd be fishing for hours, and when the match finished, Steve's still there 3 hours later trying different things because your rig's different to his rig, and perfecting different bits. There was a way that you used to catch him out there.
These are obviously Spain. You used to go over there fishing festivals with him. Right. And what were that, Pete?
It was originally, it was about 30 of us that used to go out there and fish in this great big reservoir. Originally, it was you'd catch an odd un on the pole if you were lucky, and then some feeder fish, and then I think there's been a load of fish that come over the dam, and it was just ridiculous in the end. You were catching like 400 or 500 pound of them.
Christ.
But different things in regards to how we used to fish a thing called like a splodger, we used to call it, because it was so active. You'd fish a big cage feeder, top 4 of line, used to swing out the feeder, hit the bottom, and they'd just pull the pole like rockets, pull the pole. But Steve, he wouldn't fish a splodger because he said it didn't feel right. But then he's there fishing it with a plummet and just trying out different things. The only thing is when you pull out of one, it comes back like a bullet.
I can imagine. Great big metal feeder coming back at your pole. Wow. So that sounds awesome. Why did that come to an end?
Again, I think the fish obviously got washed out the other end.
Right.
The fishing become less weights again, 80, 90 pounds. And it just lost interest, to be fair.
Be nice to get it back going again.
It was lovely. It was in the middle of nowhere. The fishing was good. We had a great crack. We used to have 2 3-hour matches.
I bet you were knackered after that one. You're red hot as well.
Absolutely scorching. Used to all sit in the lake, and just used to get catering tins of corn. You'd feed up to like 6 catering tins of corn and 5 or 6 kilos of ground bait.
Sounds awesome.
It was brilliant.
And were there a few good anglers went?
Oh yeah, you had like the Vincents, like Zach Brown,
Dave and Mick?
Dave and Mick, yeah. They're
Vincents.
2. I've got a lot of respect for Dave and Mick.
Again, I don't know him.
Bro, love the pair of them. They would do absolutely anything for you.
Right.
And they're 2 anglers that when we're finishing like the matches, we're going down the bar. Dave and Mick are making floats.
Really?
Oh, they're making, but they won't make. If you turn around and said, "Oh, my floats aren't quite right," they're not making floats for themselves. They'll come in the next day, and they'll say, "Oh, there's 10 rigs there," and anything they could do to help you, they would.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Maybe worth having them on the podcast together.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting one.
Yeah. I should imagine Mick and Dave have got so many stories.
Yeah. Might have to get that one down.
Get that one in the diary again.
Well, I'm on my quickfire questions. This normally happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it.
Quick answers. 5 minutes later. Couple more. If there was one thing you could change about fishing, Pete, what would it be?
Probably all the bitchiness, backstabbing. At the end of the day, we're all there for the same reason. We all want to go fishing. Just get on with it. Do you know what I mean? Who cares if someone's better or he's doing this? And you often find that people try and get people banned or baits banned because it doesn't suit their style of fishing. I don't get it. we're all going fishing because we want to go fishing, and if winning means that much to them, then I don't think they should be in the right sport.
Yeah. Keep it simple.
I think there's a
keep
lot
positive.
more cutthroat sports to be had than fishing. Where ultimately, my fishing starts from when I leave my house. I often speak to someone on the way to the calf. Always, if obviously COVID now, but I'd always meet people at the calf like every time. That starts me there, having a laugh with your mates, start taking the piss out of each other.
Yeah.
It's all part of the fishing. Not even the don't get me wrong. Obviously, the fishing's a big part of it, but half the time, if you didn't catch loads, who cares?
It's the day out, the
of
full
course
experience.
Of course it is.
Awesome. That leads us into the last question, really. If you had to give someone some inspiration to try fishing or go fishing that had never been fishing before, what would it be?
I think you've just got to get out there and try it. I think a bit of advice, what I would say, is try and go with someone who's been before, because on previous experience in that, 9 times out of 10 when you speak to someone who says, what, you go fishing, sit there on a chair all day, or think, it's because they've been fishing with someone in the past, never caught nothing. That first buzz when you catch a fish is immense.
Make sure you go with someone who knows what they're doing.
Without a doubt. I've taken so many people, like my mates, that I've got no interest in fishing. They're like, take me fishing, because they know that they're going to go and catch a load.
Awesome. So, folks, anyone wants to go fishing, Pete's offering free lessons. all you've got to do is comment Shabba below.
Hashtag Shabba.
Awesome. Great advice, mate. And before you go, have you got us a gift?
I have got you a gift, mate.
I've been buzzing for this.
This could be anything.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm thinking.
You should feel very privileged.
Right, tell us about it.
It doesn't get washed very often.
Oh no.
It's a bit like Trigger's broom. It's had about 5 or 6 plungers. It's been rewired about 10 times. It's got no paint left on it. There's a bit of mould. But it is one of my original meat cutters.
Wow.
A 6mm one.
Mate, Pete the meat cutter. Tobe, I don't know if you... That is an epic gift.
I reckon that is probably...
Look at that.
That's got to be 18 years old, I reckon.
I was going to say, you can see that's had some use.
Mate, there's a bit of mouldy meat wedged in the corner.
Do you know what? If you'd seen the state of it earlier, I've had to get my missus to try and clean it just so it was half decent.
What? Are you still using this?
Of course I am.
Wow. What are you going to do now you've given it us?
I don't know.
Get the knife out.
I need to come and have a look at that.
Mate, I'll show it you when we're done. That's awesome, Pete. Thank you very,
Cheers,
very
mate.
much.
That's a wicked gift, that.
Well, folks, I hope everyone listening or watching's enjoyed that one as much as myself and Toby has. Pete,
loved it, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Cheers,
for coming,
Pete.
mate. Loved it.
Cheers.
The Fishing Gurus